my brother played competitively and professionally way back then as well. He was the in-game leader and I was just one of the players, and he taught me how to play the game. Back then we didn't have like pictures on the internet. Like there was no social media, there was no YouTube, there was no Twitter, no Facebook, nothing. So like you'd go meet up with people that you'd been playing games with for like 3 years and you'd never seen them before. At one point, I think it was right before season 2, and had meetings with Overwatch. I met with like a bunch of people from Blizzard. They wanted me to come be part of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back to another installment of Time Capsule. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's been a minute. I said it wasn't going to be, but yet again, I've made you wait for this one. And to that I say, good things come to those who wait, as do great guests, because episode 3 features Jason Moses O'Toole, colloquially known as the Bald Eagle and a cornerstone of the Counter-Strike scene. This man has truly done it all. He's played, he's coached, he's analyzed, he's commentated, and he's even hosted. And in this episode, we dive into his first experience playing on a team with his older brother, his growing tattoo collection, and exactly why you should take up a trip to Belgrade with Janko if he ever so gracefully offers. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, so cheers.
Cheers.
To maybe not my first old-fashioned ever.
Could be your first old-fashioned ever.
Ooh. I was expecting it to be way more bitter.
No.
Huh.
It's nice. Good little thing of whiskey, a little sweetness to it.
Damn.
It's got it all.
Okay, I see why this is your go-to. We had a tequila for the first episode, which was Chad. I did the one with Launders at 10 a.m., so it had to be coffee.
Chad's been in a tequila mood these days.
Yeah. Where does that come from?
I don't know. Chad hits these like grooves in the year where like he's like super, super happy and he just rides that high. He just hits it so hard. It's like Chad with everything is just like full intensity.
Yes.
And when he's in that happy groove, he just rides it out as long as possible.
Yeah.
Dallas was the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, he seemed very on there. He came out like most evenings.
Motivating the social activity is what he was doing.
He also just put a message in the group chat saying, should we do something tomorrow?
Let's hop in the water tomorrow. Let's go for lunch. Yeah.
The only swim I've done here in Malta, obviously to contextualize this, we're at EPL. The only swim I've ever done was with you 2 seasons ago when we were up in like the Slima resort.
Oh yeah, yep, that's right.
And we got a taxi almost down here.
Yeah, it was down here.
Yeah.
I think it. I don't remember entirely where it was actually. I think it was right around here. It was like a 5 to 10 minute walk.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
I was expecting the water to be freezing.
No, it's great. It's warm. It's calm as far as seas go, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a great place to just, like in the summer, like I get it. Like it's an awesome place to be.
100%.
But when you're here in like the off seasons and like the first season we did this year, it's like, you don't really, it's dark, it's a little cold, it's a little rainy, it's gray. It's like England.
Shut. Yeah. It literally is. British people everywhere, things that British people love everywhere. Yeah, home away from home, kind of.
Sure.
Buck's obviously the same.
For OJ.
Yeah, and for real, literally. Were you on the desk yesterday?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was great.
That was so good.
Yeah, we love getting OJ involved. We wanted to try and bring him out here this season, but it was kind of like, it's one of those things where someone has to give up a spot to get him in here. And yeah.
We'll find the perfect formula.
We'll find a way to get him in.
We're close. We're very close. So time capsules. I think I've kind of explained the premise.
I know the format, yes, and I looked at the questions a month and a half ago or whenever you sent them to me.
Yes.
I think I remember one of them.
Yeah, we tried to do this in Cologne, and then we were just busy.
Time constraints.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess it was the break.
Yep.
And then it was
Gamers 8,
which I wasn't at.
Yeah.
And then
now I'm here.
Yeah, shit. Wow.
Yeah.
Time really flies. So this is an item that we start off with everybody. An item from your childhood. So something that you think epitomizes your childhood. It's kind of for you right now. I think the context of this is for you to look back upon, 5, 10, 15, 20 years time and go, that really exemplified me at this point in time. So as if, we're kind of digging a hole, putting the box in now, and then you're going to come and unearth the hole, just like Dinko did on the beach.
Yeah, just like Dinko.
Great hole.
He did a wonderful job with that hole. Yeah, I guess it would depend on like where exactly I wanted to pinpoint it, but like, actually, I guess with childhood it would work there too. I guess I would put like my first like team jersey.
Okay.
Like I still have like our original jersey from like 2003. Just one of them remains. I think like one or two in the whole world still survive. And I have one of those in my closet that I occasionally get to glance at. But like, I mean, most of my childhood, I mean, I started playing Counter-Strike when I was in like the 4th or 5th grade. No, later than that. 6th, 7th grade maybe?
So you're like 11, 12?
Yeah, it's like middle school. Yeah.
Wow.
1999. So yeah, I would have been 12.
Damn.
12-ish. But like, I mean, we weren't on the team at that point yet. That came a little bit later. But I mean, ever since I started playing Counter-Strike, like it's basically just been like a focal point of my life in some way, right? Like it comes in and out in different phases. But Counter-Strike has just been some core part of my existence for the majority of my life now. And I think one thing too is like I got to be on a team with my brother played competitively and professionally way back then as well. So we were on the same team together for a lot of our career. So like that was a cool experience too, like getting to drive around the States and drive around all the different tournaments with him. And he was the in-game leader and I was just one of the players and he taught me how to play the game. So I think there's a lot of like fond memories of my brother like kind of roped into that one as well.
Yeah. So how did you initially find CS? How was that discovery? I guess through him.
We played a ton of Half-Life, which Counter-Strike was a mod of back then. And we just had like a friend come into school one day and he's like, hey, I found this new cool game, like it's a mod of Half-Life, which we all play, like this is how you download it, here's the website, go install it, and play and dabble in it. And back then when we started playing, actually, cable internet had just come out for the first time. Everything up to that point was like 56K, like where you had to like use the phone line and dial in and start the internet. And
I can hear the noise.
I know, 10-minute process. And cable had just got installed, so you could actually, it was a little, you could, play on like, I don't know, like 120 ping instead of like the 200 ping and stuff like that. Yeah, I know. But yeah, we only had one PC, so my brother and I would do the whole, like, you play 3 rounds, I play 3 rounds, you play 3 deaths and you switch, whatever it might have been. Then we started building our own PCs. Then we each had our own, and then our rooms are next to each other. So like when you're playing in a public server, you're kind of like screen watching other people. You're like, he's at the door, shoot, and just spam people through doors and stuff. And but yeah, that's how it began. And then even to that point was like at some point within like a year, it was like we found all of a sudden a website of the leagues, like found like the news coverage website, which back then was called like Domain of Games, I think, or something like that. The Domain of Games. And that had all like the day's matches and like predictions and the schedule and blah, 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 just a community ran website. And then we started like following the league a little bit. And then we, in 2001, we watched the grand final of like one of the biggest, I mean, it was the biggest at the time, but it's still like a pretty historic game. It was CPL Speakeasy 2001. It took place in Dallas. And it was the first time, to my knowledge, that there was a really hyped up match between Europe and North America. Oh, wow. It was like Team X3 from North America versus NIP, oddly enough, from Europe. It was all the Swedes, Heaton and Potty and those guys, came over to the States, and they ended up winning in like a big, grueling, like double overtime match. But that was the game that my brother and I watched, and like slight organization, slight structure, but we were like, we have to get into it. Like we were both competitive, we were both in sports, and it was like, this is sick. Like we have to start doing this. Wow. So then we started entering leagues, and then we started trying out teammates, and then you started finding people in public servers and being, are they good enough? Are they not good enough? And yeah, that's how that whole road got started. That's
so neat. So you were the ones to like form the team. What was it?
I think it was my brother and his buddy called back then. We were called SSF.
Which stood for?
I want to say it was something Special Forces.
Okay.
It was very military heavy, and everyone in the team had a rank. So like only 5 people played in the match, but you'd have like 10 to 15 people like as part of like your friend group that you'd all play together.
Yes.
And you'd have ranks, like the leader of the team, like the guy who started it was like the brigadier general, and the other one you'd have like a lieutenant, and you'd have like a colonel, a bunch of privates.
That's amazing.
I know, it's really old school. And you'd have the tag like after your name, so everyone knew what your rank was when you were in the game. And you'd know if you were getting like the A team, because it'd be like, oh, 4 privates, this is the bullshit team. But yeah, there wasn't even like really like practicing back then. It wasn't even like scrims when that all first started. But yeah, I did that for a little bit. And then my brother and I eventually got to the point where we started taking it more seriously. And we started like a local team within like our school, essentially, within our town. I forget what it was even called, actually. But it was a couple guys that we went to school with, and we would just play in like small local tournaments as they would pop up. Or it was more like a LAN would pop up where, it'd be like a BYOC, like 200 people are paying like $20 a person.
Yeah,
Someone rents out like a big empty building. Everyone brings their computer, sets up, plugs in, and you just, whatever games happen. And sometimes you'd go and no one played Counter-Strike. Sometimes you'd go and only like 5 other people played Counter-Strike. And sometimes you'd have 4 teams that played Counter-Strike. So you just play games and StarCraft, Counter-Strike back then, like Quake.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I've only done BYOC maybe 3 or 4 times.
Sure.
Because there wasn't really
It fell
any... It really did,
Yeah.
I mean, you can play online, so like, why would you come
There's
together?
no point anymore, yeah.
Exactly.
It used to be, like in the States back then too, like playing from, I live in Michigan, which is a little bit more centralized, but like playing where I was from to Texas was like 70 ping. Playing from where I was to Los Angeles was 90 to 100 ping. Playing New York to Los Angeles was 110 ping. So, I mean, even when you were in matches back then, it'd be like, okay, first half of this match is going to take place on a Los Angeles server. Second half is going to take place on a New York server.
Oh, wow.
And you'd swap servers at halftime so that each team got a half on their home ping.
Damn.
And that's how it was kind of played at the
That's how
time.
you make it equal-ish,
Yeah, equal-ish.
I guess, yeah.
But yeah, BYOC LANs are like some of my fondest memories that I have. I mean, my brother and I used to run BYOC LANs in our basement just with like, 5 or 6 other guys from school. Come over, everyone drinks some energy drinks, stay up late, playing video games together. But I would never do it these days. I would never do a BYOC LAN again. It's like I've had my fill. I'm too old now.
Yes.
It's too much.
Shit gets kind of wild. I don't know why I have like that image in my head of there's this like picture of, I guess it's like guys in a basement and there's this guy in like a hammock on the ceiling.
Yeah.
He's just got like a laptop.
Well, the famous one is the guy who is
and...
duct taped to the ceiling.
Yes,
just wrapped in duct tape to it.
Like every bit of space counts.
LAN parties got weird.
I remember doing one with my friends at one of my friends' houses because his mom like would leave town like semi-frequently to be like, no risk of having a house party. It was more like the LAN parties coming around, and they had this massive kitchen table, but it was still like a fight for the elbow space there. And like I played on a really high sense because I
didn't have the space to play less.
Exactly, yeah. But like I did it anyway because I played on a fucking dressing table. My parents they refused to get me a desk because my mom was so into interiors. She was like, "No, I found you this really lovely dresser. I've like painted it, distressed it. You will use this." Yeah. So I was everybody's favorite to sit next to because I had this tiny weeny mouse pad, tiny weeny everything. Yeah,
taking up no room.
And like the BYOCs, I haven't thought about those for ages because you would just stay up playing for like 24 hours.
I mean,
sleep on your chair.
Even like the old tournaments back then were like the CPLs were like 4 days in Dallas in like a hotel ballroom, and it'd be like, I don't know, like there was probably like 400 or 500 BYOC spots available to rent out to people, and you'd fly or drive in from all over, but it would literally be 4 days of just playing games, like 20 hours a day. It'd be like, you're playing, you go play your game, you come back, you're still just gaming for another 6 hours, whatever it might be, with any of the other 400 people, public servers everywhere. But it was like, 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. That was it, just video games.
So you said you were playing when you started playing when you were 12, and then you were in a team when you were what, like 16?
No, like 14 is when I started competing-ish. I think my first CPL, I was 15 or 16, yeah.
Damn.
And it was funny. I've said it a couple times on broadcast. First time I ever got a fake ID was for Counter-Strike, because you had to be 17 to play Counter-Strike at the CPL because it's rated for 17-year-olds.
Of course,
and at the time, that was kind of a big deal.
So funny.
And I mean, even back then, there were a lot of, like Volcano, who's now the Valorant map developer. He was one of the best players we had in North America. And he had to sit out like a year of tournaments because he was only 16 at the time. And that was like a big drama at the time. And like one of the big Norwegian players, Element, who was part of the first contract transfer ever, was also 16, but somehow was allowed to play in the tournament. So there was always like these little dramas because like, he was a big enough name to where they were like, no, we should have him here.
You're an exception to the rule.
Yeah, exactly. But like, the first time I bought a fake ID was or tried to buy a fake ID, I should say. It was some random bullshit website in Canada that was like, hey, send us $100 and we'll send you back a fake ID. Send us this passport picture.
Oh, you actually did it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you didn't...
desperately. Yeah, because it was just like, we have to play.
Like, they sent you a physical one?
I mean, we didn't actually get it back. It was very clearly, looking back on it, a scam. But at the time when like you desperately want to play in the tournament, you're practicing, you'll try everything. So you scrounge up $100, send it over, and don't get anything back. But we passed back with my brother's ID. Michael walked in, set up the computer, came back, goes, I got to go to the bathroom, came back out, gives me his ID in the bathroom. Then I walk in with it, and
genius.
Security was a little lax back then.
Yeah. I've done the same thing. First time I did fake ID was for Gamescom 20... I don't know. No, it must have been 2013.
Yeah.
No, maybe 2014. I don't know. One of the two. I was 17 and desperately wanted to play Call of Duty. And you know how it would flip between the developers? So one would be a 16, then one was an 18 because of where they were based.
Yep.
I went on the year, unluckily, that it was an 18.
And Germany's intense about that stuff.
So intense.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was obviously I was traveling over from England, so use the excuse of like, oh, I don't have my passport on me because what if I lost it and I couldn't go home, so here's a photocopy of it. And I just put it in Photoshop and changed it 6 to 5. Yeah, they were very sus about it. I went with my then boyfriend who looked way younger than me, and it was him that actually got pulled up after we'd been through. So we went through, played it, had a great time, came out the other side, and somebody pulled them up and they were like, how old are you? Like, can you see your ID? You got anything else? Yeah. I'm like, well, what are you going to do now?
Yeah, I know, we've already played the game.
Erase our memory, get the pen
I think there was actually like an ESWC or a WCG back in the early days of Counter-Strike, or like middle years, like around 2010, that they changed in Counter-Strike. There was like a setting where you can, instead of killing somebody, they yield. And it took place in Germany, and they forced that issue. So if like one tournament, everyone was watching CS, and when you would kill someone, their model would just kneel on the ground and put their hands behind the head like a hostage.
Wow.
And that was how you knew you killed somebody.
What?
Yeah,
That's so wacky.
Yeah, it was some weird stuff back then.
It's so weird. Like, you know what you've done. You know what's happening.
We all know.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
this doesn't actually solve the problem in any way. But yeah, no, it was fun back then. It was different times, and you know, it's over the years, like it hasn't happened, I think in like 3 or 4 years, but I know ESL for a while, or ESEA specifically, was trying to find an idea that they could execute that would bring BYOCs back. They wanted to like bring back like a 200-person BYOC in Dallas. But it's like that shit just doesn't work anymore. Because like, why would I choose to travel and fly and pay all that money when I can do the same thing from home?
Yes. Did you you had to bring your physical PC to those things, right? Or did you rent one?
The first time I went to 3 CPLs. The first one was my own PC. And after that, I became, you know, big enough as a player to get PCs provided for me. Like not by the tournament, but like we would know people in Dallas, or a company that's building PCs would be like, hey, do you want to use our PC? Like add our company name into your tag during the tournament. So you'd have like your team tag, your name, and then the sponsor, like the PC sponsor who let you borrow a PC for the BYOC. Same for monitors and stuff, like, because monitors are hard to travel with.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first time was those giant tower PCs in the overhead container. And,
Jesus.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I couldn't even imagine having to fly with one. I'd be so nervous.
People did crazy stuff back then. Like, this is what, like, I think when you hear like old people talk about like certain things about like playing for pride and everything like that. Like, I know my brother for one of the CPLs, drove down there with like 3 other guys from Michigan. They were all on different teams, but all going to the tournament. Drove from Michigan, which is like I want to say it's like a 21, 22 hour drive.
Wow.
So they drove down there, and my brother didn't even have a hotel room. He slept by the pool for 4 days. He just slept in like a pool chair in the hotel. And occasionally they would come by and kick him out, and he'd go find somewhere else to sleep and like that. Because like he just didn't have money back then, right? Like there wasn't opportunities to get money. And I mean, I think the first CPL I went to was like 7 people in one room. Like that's just how you made it work. Was like everyone throw in like $50 and you have a hotel for the weekend.
Yes, and,
no other way to do it. So yeah, I mean those are the kind of like, you know, sacrifices looking back that you kind of had to make, because like everything went into Counter-Strike.
Yeah, definitely. No, I've only had to I think I've come into esports professionally at a very, luxurious
Most of the growing pains are out of the way.
Yeah. There's only been certain things.
I mean, winning events back then was like the difference between eating at McDonald's or eating at like Applebee's. It was just like the upgrade would be like, oh, I can either get a Happy Meal if I got second place, or if I get first place, I won, an extra $40 and I can go get some mozzarella sticks.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of stuff. Or like, 2 hotel rooms at the next event instead of just 1 for the 7 people. It's like those kinds of differences.
Yeah, definitely. I remember doing it again, at the same BYCs, like we never, slept in the pool at all. It would always be like, a friend has a hotel room. I'll give you 20 quid and I'll come sleep on the floor. I remember doing that once when I used to work at, I think I was at uni at the time, or maybe doing A-levels. Like I was like 18, 19. And I had a job at like a shitty retail store back in my hometown, but really wanted to go to this land, like just to see my friends and like experience everything, which was in Birmingham, like hour and a half away. So got the train up after my shift, ended at like 4, went up, basically spent the whole night there and had another shift at 12 and got the first train back to Reading, which was just, mistakes were made, but like in the grand scheme of things, so worth it, because you get to experience all of like the wholesome energy that you get at BYC events, and like
seeing
everybody is amazing.
It's so funny back then. I think about it too. Like back then, we didn't have like pictures on the internet. Like there was no social media, there was no YouTube, there was no Twitter, no Facebook, nothing. So like you'd go meet up with people that you'd been playing games with for like 3 years, and you'd never seen them before, and you would just like run into someone, and you'd be like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And he'd be like, "Oh, I'm Destroyer," and you're like, "Oh, what's up, bro?" Like that kind of vibe was so fun back then. Like just trying to figure out like who people were, and like I don't know. It was fun. I look back on those times with a lot of fondness. Yeah.
No, it's good to have those kind of comparisons and look at how or where we've got to now, right? And just go, how has this exploded so much? What was it like having your older brother as an in-game leader? Was it nice to have the support and that there's like a familiar person there, or was it tough?
I mean, it was annoying because I was kind of like I was a little bit of the goofball of the team. Like I took matches very seriously, but I fucked around in practice a little bit.
Okay.
But I think it was probably nicer for him than for me because we're in the same room when we're practicing. So like if I'm fucking around too much,
he can literally just come over and
my
hit
brother
you.
was like a two-time junior Olympic champion in Taekwondo. He was like
really?
He did like states in wrestling. Yeah.
What?
He's a freak show. So he could kick my ass pretty easily and did a couple times. But I mean, it was awesome in the sense that like, it's nice how he's having a teammate that at the end of the day you can trust very much. That you can be open with when shit's getting a little bit weird. And my brother was also like he's very disciplined and very hardworking, as you'd have to be to get those sorts of accolades in Taekwondo and everything. So like for him, it was cool being able to learn, because at that stage in my life, I sort of lacked that discipline. Like I would have never learned Counter-Strike to the level that I did if it wasn't for him, like holding my hand, showing me the way, telling me not to be a dumbass. But more than anything, like it was just fun hanging out with your brother, like traveling, we'd drive to like Ohio for a tournament for like a week, and then you'd drive home, and then you'd practice and play online, and then you'd drive to like Chicago the next weekend and play in one of those, and a qualifier up in like a different town in Michigan over in Detroit or something like that. And Indiana had a bunch of events back then. So it was that part of it was really fun. And yeah, we haven't had a whole lot of like brother family combinations in CSGO, but there have been a bunch over the years.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I mean, it's great. And it's fun being able to share successes, because like we had at that time, we had like one of the biggest success stories in North America in the scene at that time. So like it was fun being able to have family that you could share in that kind of moment with it,
Yeah. No, that's really cool. What does he do now? Where's his...
He is he's married. He's got 3 kids and a dog. He's gone that route. He's got the whole thing. And then he's a emergency paramedic. He's or emergency nurse, I guess it would be. He's a nurse, and he flies in the helicopter around town. So he gets called to all like the really messed up calls of being like, "Hey, the ambulance will be too slow. Send the helicopter." Shit. And he zooms all over Michigan and drops in and deals with like the crazy motorcycle crashes, or deals with like the highway crashes where you need the jaws of life to get someone out of a car.
That's crazy.
Yeah. He's a little bit of it's funny because like he's a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, which is I think why like, and he needs that like kind of, I think that's a way he solves his like missing competitive nature of things like Counter-Strike and of Taekwondo and of wrestling and of competition is like having that adrenaline rush of his job.
Yes.
It's the hardest thing that I think Counter-Strike players deal with, or one of them. And any athlete, you hear like even when players retire from football or basketball, whatever sport, is like you miss that rush of the competition. And yeah, that's kind of how he solved it. I think he wanted to be a military, like he wanted to join the military and be like a military paramedic, like dropping into war zones and being the medic. And that was one thing he chased for a while. Yeah, he's a crazy person. Now he just like runs marathons and Ironmans and
just a casual
saves lives. And,
all in a day's work for Jason's brother.
And I'm like, all right, I'm off to a video game tournament. I'll see you later. Have fun at work. It's great. But I mean, he still follows Counter-Strike. He still messages me all the time and talks about tournaments, asking about teams, and he loves it. He still loves CS.
Has he been to one? Like when we've been in NA?
Yeah, I took him out to one of the IM New Yorks when they were going down. I took him out to Barclays Center. He came to the Chicago ones as well because we live very close to Chicago. I want to get him out to a Cologne. I really want to get him out to a Cologne one year. I took my parents to Cologne last year, which was cool. They were at Columbus as well. I think they did one of the E-League seasons as well. But yeah, my brother, I would love to get to a major, and especially like one of the big arenas. Because like, if you go back, like those are where the dreams began. If you go back to like that tiny little hotel in Dallas, those are like the things we all talked about was like, what if one day there was like sort of that aspiration of like, what if we can get this into arena?
Yeah.
Like, what if we can turn this into like a real sport? Like, what if we can get those kinds of eyeballs on it? So, there's a lot of the old guys from back in the day that I still like talk to intermittently, and they'll message me and they'll be like, hey man, I'm tuning into Cologne. Awesome. Still seeing you like involved. Like this is sweet.
Wow.
And like, there is like a little mini brotherhood of like the old school Counter-Strike players.
You said your brother's an adrenaline junkie. Are you like that as well? Do you feel like you fall into that category?
Not a junkie.
Okay.
I enjoy it, but I don't chase it. Yeah. Like I went skydiving in Sydney, and if anyone was like, hey, let's go skydiving at this event, I'd be like, yep, hell yeah, let's do it. But I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I'm more laid back.
Yeah.
My hobbies reside in like, I mean, when I'm home, I'm like, you know, I have the baby and everything, and I have 2 dogs and mostly family stuff around the house, and I'm pretty laid back and pretty chill and pretty reserved, and been getting into gardening. So like, I'm like the opposite of adrenaline junkie, but like I'll do it. I'm just not seeking for it every day.
You seem like a guy that will, you know, it's hard for you to say no to something. Like, I haven't been in situations where you've said, like,
I'm the eternal yes man. I am the enabler of this group. Outside of, like, stupid tweets and stupid things on broadcast, I'm like the yes man.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good way to be, right? Because there's so many situations where if I'd have said no to something, then so many, like the butterfly effect, like so many subsequent things wouldn't have happened. Like, if I was too scared to do something.
Right.
My life would be in a totally different situation to where it is now.
Yeah, I don't know like when that philosophy like kicked in, but I very much have, like, especially with like new experiences. Most things that I haven't done, I think I would probably say yes to. I mean, with conditions to it, but you know, like if there's like some experience that I've like thought about or I've kind of wanted to do, and even if especially if someone else is like very into something, I'm like, fuck yeah. Because like part of it isn't necessarily doing the activity, it's being with someone who's really enjoying it. Like that's what always gets you to connect to something is like, this guy thinks this is the coolest thing ever. Like, yeah, I want to try that. Like,
100%.
I think it sounds fucking stupid, but let me see it. Let me experience it through the lens of this guy.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's what it gets interesting to me. So yeah, at some point during my life, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to try everything once.
Yeah.
Just
and
go
if I
for
don't like it, then I have a reason to say
and
no
I've tried
the
it.
next time.
And I don't have to do it, and like, fine, whatever. But
you mentioned your parents came out to Cologne one year. Were they like supportive as, you know, you and your brother were growing up? Did they understand the whole video games philosophy?
No, but like I don't think anyone at that time could have been supportive, because like there's no way to know what this would turn into, not only in terms of just Counter-Strike, but even just the industry of gaming. Like back then, especially for an adult, you know, parents who are 40s, 50s, like you can't possibly know what that's going to turn into. They were supportive enough to let us explore it because I think they saw the benefits of like understanding the technology. They, I think, were supportive of like certain elements of it, like like when Michael and I would host a LAN party at our house, and we would go get all the LAN cables, and we would have like a network switch and everything, and they would see us like tinkering in like the console and like the command prompt to like make the network work. They would realize there's a certain skill set and a certain knowledge that is probably valuable. They didn't enjoy us playing video games until 5, 6 in the morning on school nights. They didn't enjoy us playing video games 10 hours, 12 hours a day. They didn't enjoy us prioritizing Counter-Strike over pretty much everything else in our lives. There were certainly some moments like butting heads that didn't play out well. But I mean, looking back, I think they handled it about as well as you could have, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, it was fun back then. It was like a little bit of a game. Like my parents didn't fully understand it either. So like at the time when they would see us playing too much, they'd be like, okay, we're going to punish these guys. We're going to take the power cable away from the PC.
Oh, no.
Not realizing that we could go to like the dollar store and get like a new power cable that day. We'd be like, oh no, please, no, don't take that. Please, Mom, Dad. And then we'd have like 10 more stashed in like a closet somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like, we just had that advantage over them. But, yeah, they were certainly supportive of like, there was like a phase, not really a phase, but like for a while, for like a year or two, I was doing a lot of like content and journalist work for ESEA back in like 2004, 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And they liked me doing that in regards to the game because that journalism was something like you can understand, right? Like something they could kind of get. And then when I kind of came back to commentary, when I came back to playing in like 2012, 2013, not supportive, but like just like he's an adult, whatever.
Yeah, he's can make his own
and then when I
decisions.
switched into commentary, they loved it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So was there a moment where you felt the shift of like, okay, they approve of this on all levels now?
Yeah, when I got my first contract to be like a full-time, my first contract was in like that would have been 2014. I got the ESEA contract because like I was working a couple part-time jobs back home. I was getting like IT certificates for like networking, so like CompTIA certificates and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was commentating on the side as like a hobby and just like, you know, hopping in games now and again when ESEA wanted to broadcast it and getting paid, I don't know, spending money, not really bills money.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like you could, it would help you kind of go out to get some food or go to the bar, but it wasn't going to be anything that you could pay rent, couldn't pay bills. And when I got my first contract from ESEA, when I was in 2014, it was like, I think it was like a $32,000 contract.
Oh wow. Okay.
And like, which no one was getting back then, like, like not in terms of money, but just no one was getting contracts. So when they saw that it was just like stable work, like you're getting X amount, and that could plan to help me pay off student loans, and that could plan to help me pay for certifications, and they realized they could start helping me learn how to budget my money to plan your life out. That's where they started supporting it.
Huh. What did you do at college?
I did everything. Well, I did everything but go to school, really.
It's different in the US.
Yeah,
right?
you have to pick your major.
Yeah.
And I shuffled between about 6 majors because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was not. The weird thing was, like, when looking back, I'm just like, I'm someone who I would have really benefited, American listeners might understand this a little bit more, is going to a community college for like a year or two and then transitioning to a bigger school. I went off to Chicago right out of the gate. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Didn't know what I wanted to study. Didn't know what I wanted to be. Didn't really have motivation to do well in college. Kind of went there more for the social aspect was my bigger interest. As all of college, like that, you're going to have that. But I was literally like, my first semester, I didn't go to class at all. Like not like after like the first 2 weeks, I was not in class. So that was an interesting.
Because you were too hungover to go to class.
Too hungover.
Too much video games.
Too much playing video games. Well, also like at college at the time, like even that was 2005, 2006 was my first year of college, 2006. Internet on campus wasn't even good enough for games during peak hours. So like when all the students would be done with class and get back at like after like 5 p.m. like happy hour and everyone's back from their classes and the internet's bogged up with people doing homework.
Shit.
So like I could only play video games from like, I don't know, let's say like 4 a.m. until 4 p.m. Those were my hours, and no one plays video games during those hours. So I got into Dota a lot at that time. But anyways, at college I did nothing, but I switched my major. I was a journalist major for a while. I was a history major for a while, a psych major for a while, education, teaching for a while. Oh, wow. I had like, there's a lot of things I've been interested in, but never enough to like dive into except for Counter-Strike,
Counter-Strike,
which is why
yeah.
Counter-Strike has always been there.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so we're putting the jersey in. I didn't even ask what the jersey looked like. What colors were on the jersey? Remember?
Blue, it's a team called United 5. We had our very basic logo from back then, all the sponsors that were on it, NVIDIA and Intel. I mean, listen, here's an actual cool story. You want to talk about like the crazy intersection of various things in esports over the years. And this is why it's so important, one, to never be a fucking asshole if you're going into esports and gaming, because you never know who's gonna be around still. But also the importance of networking is, back when I was playing, I was on United 5 with my brother. And we were, for a long time, just an irrelevant North American team. But for about a year and a half, we became the best North American team that there was. And we overtook that spot from Team 3D, which is like the legendary North American squad that people reference from 1.6. The manager of that team was Torbil, Craig Levine, who to this day is now the CEO of ESL and ESL Gaming. But even back then, being rivals, he was someone who always understood the business side of things and focused on the business side of things and pioneered and developed that side of things in esports in North America. He's the one who brought NVIDIA and Intel sponsorships to Team 3D. And when we beat them at a CPL, which was like a huge win for us, a revolutionary like win for us and career changing for us, he recognized that and knew that NVIDIA and Intel wanted more exposure within the esports scene. And he brought it to us as their direct rivals. And he's the one who kind of hooked us up with an NVIDIA and Intel sponsorship back then. So like new PCs, X amount of dollars per quarter, you know, a little bit of money coming in. Like we didn't make money, but it paid for travel to events because TOs didn't pay for travel back then.
Yes.
And it was huge. And then later on, he's the one who founded ESEA. He gave me my first job at ESEA doing journalist work. He was someone who gave me like intermittent work when I was in college and wanted some extra spending money. I would do some things for ESEA. And he was also the one at ESEA who helped me get my first casting contract when I came there. So like that kind of network access is incredible.
Yeah.
But also trusting me from over the years of doing work for them periodically and knowing like what kind of person I was and knowing what kind of work I do. So, you know, like that's just a benefit through the industry. Like you never know who's going to be in charge of fucking ESL one day.
That's crazy. Yeah. And in so many different roles, he kind of gave you that trust and the access to things, right? I had no idea that he was like in charge of all the business side of that, but it totally
he was the one who revolutionized it because everyone back then just played the game. And still you see like now you know too, like players still just want to play the game.
Yes.
But even back then he was like, nope, you have to do this interview. Nope, we're in New York. You have to meet with this news agency. And none of it was getting publicity to the esports audience, but all of it was getting publicity to the mainstream audience.
Yes.
So he was the one who really pushed for that. And I'm sure he had a ton of fucking headaches with the players trying to get him to do it even back then. But like he developed that kind of side of things and he just saw the opportunity and seized it.
That's crazy. Man, so you've known him for 20
years.
Yeah. Wow.
20-ish years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The next item, which doesn't have to be a physical item, can be a memory, a moment, something, you know, even if it's an item that you don't own. Something from esports. So, you know,
a jersey, for instance.
Exactly, a different jersey. Maybe I don't know. You could put an event in there. You could put a play in there. You could put an item that kind of epitomizes a certain moment in your esports career. What would you put in that?
Oh, that one's tough. You know, if we could put moments in here, I'll put one in because it's a cool moment, and I get to share this moment with Yanko because I know if you ever do this with him, he'll probably have the same moment. In fact, make a note if you ever ask him about just make it a separate question.
Yeah.
Was ESL ESEA Dubai 2015?
The event that was outside.
Yeah, the event that was outside. I mean, the event was nothing special, but that was like the first event where both Yanko and I felt like we made it. Like that was one of those events where it felt like you hit like a new level, like where something positive had happened. And I remember it was very early in my career too. That was my second international event at that point. But I just, for whatever reason at that event, had a feeling that like I had like made some step up that was going to be special. And I mean, it was a wild event in the sense that, I mean, the whole event was unique. But, you know, in Dubai, all the hotels are in those high rises, and it was put on by like Dubai Tourism as well. So they put us up in nice hotels. And Yanko and I remember just both drinking like some whiskey at the after party, like hanging over the balcony, overlooking the Dubai Marina, overlooking like the little, you know, that fake island they built that looks like a palm leaf or whatever, or a palm tree.
It definitely doesn't now.
Not anymore. At the time it did. And just like this surreal experience of just being like, how the fuck did Counter-Strike get us here? Like, how did we find a path to this moment? And even at that event, I remember asking like Anders, because I was still very new at the time, and Anders was such a big name at that moment. And I remember just like giddy, starstruck, like, you know, inexperienced, just being like, ask him like, did you feel this feeling at like explaining it to him, like, did you feel this emotion at some point? He was like, yeah. I was like, how do you hang on to it? Like, how do you, like, if I want to feel this like at every single event, like, how do you do it? And like, there's obviously no good answer to that. And you obviously can't ever hold on to that feeling at every single event.
Yeah.
But that was the first event where I really had that feeling of like, this is turning into something special. This is turning into something really unique. This is actually exactly where I want to be, exactly what I want to be doing, and exactly what I want to do down the road.
Yeah.
So that event has always, we never really referenced that event in any unique way, except for that moment. You know, and Yanko and I were rooming together, and we talked about it a little bit there, and we still talk about it to this day. But that was an event that just encapsulated like some unique moment that you don't get very often, not only in career but in life. You know, like, and I don't even know how to like verbalize it now to this day. There's just like some weird feeling at that moment that I was like, everything about this is fucking awesome.
As Matthew would probably say, the je ne sais quoi of the event, right?
Yeah,
the
it's something you can't explain.
Yeah. No, I've definitely been there.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's
certain
like you want
events
to bottle
have
it and hold on to it forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like esports is that journey of like, you kind of, it's almost like a pinball machine. You're sort of bouncing between those, and sometimes an event won't quite hit. And
it's almost like the feeling itself is like the recognition that it's a fleeting moment or a fleeting moment. Like when you recognize that it is not something you can hold on to, that is what made it special in that moment.
Yeah.
Like you just know it's there, and you know you have to enjoy it and enjoy the ride from there on out.
Yeah, bask in it.
Yeah, that event was crazy. That was fun, man. That was old school esports too nowadays. Like even like that was when like after parties used to be after parties. That was like, so Twitch was still doing after parties back then.
Okay.
And they had like 3 representatives there at that event. Fifth Lyron was one of them, the old NIP player, and a couple other guys that we're still close with these days. But they all got, talking about upgrades, they all got upgraded to suites in their hotel rooms in Dubai. So they all had individual hotel rooms in Dubai. They all got upgraded to individual suites. Except these suites were like, they were like 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 50th floor of this hotel
like
high rise.
Dubai kind of style.
And all of them had their own individual like 5-bedroom, 4-bedroom, you know, hotel rooms. So we did the after party at one of their rooms.
Makes sense. No need for a venue when you got 5 rooms.
Yeah, it was the talent. It was NIP. TSM didn't come. I think VP came. Cloud9 came. And it was like one of the, like no crowd, no fans, no audience. It was just like the production and the gamers and the tournament were there. And Twitch just called down to the hotel, and like Dubai and the Middle East are obviously very weird places in terms of drinking. It's gotten better over the years.
Yeah, what was it like then?
You can only really drink at hotels.
Okay. Because
So,
Dubai's obviously fine now.
Dubai's better now. From whatever, I haven't been back to Dubai since. I've been to Abu Dhabi, and Abu Dhabi's easy.
That was fine.
But at the time, it was like Twitch just like said, "Hey, we need like 5 bottles of vodka, 5 bottles of whiskey. We need 20 pizzas, a bunch of chasers, a couple bottles of gin," and they just brought it all up on trolleys. And it was, again, like at that time, my second international event, second time I'd been out of like over to not South America, to not Mexico, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a unique environment of an extremely different culture at that time.
Yeah,
and it's certainly, from what we've seen over the years going back to Abu Dhabi, it's changed a little bit.
Yeah, massively. When did you first meet Yanko? What was your first interaction with him?
Oh, shit. You know what? I guarantee you the first time I met him, I don't know if he was observing like the first pro league I did. So my career rose quickly. Like I kind of blew up in terms of being at events. I did all NA online and ESEA lands in Dallas for like a year. And then I did the first ESL Pro League, which is in Cologne.
Yeah.
And then the next event after that was a month later, and that was Dubai. And I don't know if I met him at Pro League. I can't remember. But I roomed with him in Dubai. So I would say Dubai was like the safe call of the first event. We like really hung out for sure, met each other. I think it was probably Dubai. It might have been Pro League.
So you didn't know of each other, but you were sharing a room?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
They just threw us in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was the day where...
It was like ESL employees were roomed up together.
Yes.
And then freelancers were kind of roomed up together.
Yeah, I know when I joined Face It in 2018, like obviously that was the expectation of a lot of crew, and that was totally fine, but as a woman, they obviously would never expect you to share a room with another guy, and there really were no other women doing it, so I never experienced that, really.
We shared rooms until I think MLG didn't make us share rooms for the major in 2016.
Okay.
And ever since then, we've been like, that's an important one.
Yeah,
like, I don't need more money at this moment. I will eschew asking you for more money to give me a solo room.
Yeah.
Because it's necessary. Like really once the travel schedule picked up, because like it was like a very obvious thing of being like, look, he's coming from Asia, I'm comking from the States, we're meeting in Romania, like we kind of need our own room. We're on different schedules entirely. And like we all have stories of like someone being up late or coughing or getting sick, and then you get sick, and then having to do a broadcast. And even back then, there were no rotations. If you were on broadcast, 12, 14 hours a day. So if one person gets sick and then two people get sick, like your show is just ruined.
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of different reasons to do it, but yeah, I think 2015, like Yank and I roomed together at Dubai. He came to Cluj-Napoca, which he wasn't working, and we hung out there. And we roomed together for ESL Barcelona and a couple other events. There were no issues. Yanko and I get along famously. He's like probably my closest friend that I've met through the talent over the years.
Yeah.
So like they never split us up again. But yeah, we always roomed together. It was great.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of forgot that was a thing.
Yeah.
Because I've never.
I have too.
Really had to
I have blocked it out of my mind.
Yeah. Okay, so we're putting. Oh, one final question on Dubai. What the hell was it like doing an event outside in Dubai?
I loved it.
Yeah?
I thought it was great.
Okay.
The players hated it.
Yeah.
And I, admittedly, even at the time, hated it for the players.
Yeah.
Playing in intense heat, but also like the refrigerator-size air conditionings behind them was like, I don't know what it is in European numbers, but in like America, it'd be like 60 degrees behind you and like 100 degrees in front of you.
Okay, I wish I knew what the conversion was, because that sounds like death on both of those.
I don't know
30 is like hot for us.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
30 degrees is it's below freezing for us.
Let's Google it. What is 60 Fahrenheit in? I should know this because so many people say it, and I'm like, that's just a number.
Yeah, I can do the conversion from Celsius to. I can't make it up, but if I know the number in Celsius, I can convert it.
Okay, so 15 degrees was what they were aiming for it to be, but it was actually 30 in front of you.
Or it's just like, because the air conditioning's behind you, so like your hands would be sweating, but you'd be shivering behind you. Like your back would be like, your body would be cold.
Two different climates.
But like for me as like casting it, I thought it was awesome because we were literally casting from the Dubai Marina. So like I'd be casting a game and I'd be watching the game, and then I would look up and you would see all like the multi-million-dollar yachts in front of you and like the mast sticking up into the sky and the water behind it. And then I'd turn around and it'd be the skyscrapers of Dubai and like a cool urban environment and image. And it was like, for me, that was sweet. Like that's like, even today, that's a cool view.
That's such a cool location.
The only other city I know that you can get that kind of a view in, there's probably many more, but Chicago. There's beaches in the city of Chicago and downtown.
Of course,
so you can turn around and see like the downtown skyline. And then you see Lake Michigan, which essentially looks like an ocean.
Yes.
You can't see land on the other side of it. So like it's the same kind of feeling to it.
That blows my mind. I've experienced that for the first time in Toronto this summer.
The Great Lakes are amazing.
Landing and being like, oh yeah, we're by the ocean, of course.
Yeah,
and then
except
being
it's a lake.
Like, no, it's a fucking lake, but you can't see the other side.
I know.
And even we went up to like the, more rural parts of Ontario where there's all these lakes, which in comparison on a map look way smaller, but you still can't see the other side of it.
Yeah.
It's insane. Such a different...
The Great Lakes are crazy. Like, I mean, I'm from Michigan, so I look into them from time to time. I mean, even like, depending on which lake you look at, like Lake Superior has an incredible amount of sunken ships, like shipwrecks.
Oh, wow.
It's incredibly deep, and it's like it's the most aggressive and violent of the Great Lakes. And there are like songs and stories about the shipwrecks that have gone down there. And it has like an incredible history of like boats that have just disappeared, boats that have never been found.
That's crazy,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I guess that was the way to get across.
Yeah, it's the only way to do it.
planes back in those
I mean,
days.
it's still huge for shipping these days, but
Yes.
we don't use it commercially, or I mean, not we use it commercially. We don't use it for
like recreation.
Yeah, recreation.
Yeah. Okay, so we're putting Dubai in the box.
Dubai in the box.
That's your esports moment.
That's in there.
So moving on to a song. If there's a song.
This is the one question I remember.
Okay.
And I don't have a song for you. I'm going to alter it for you.
Ooh.
I have an album.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
So when I'd been to Cologne for Pro League Season 1. That was my first time there. And I stayed a couple extra days and walked around and got a seat. That was my first time in Europe. So I stayed like 2 extra days. And then I came back for ESL Cologne that year, which was the first year we were in Lanxess. And then I think the next year I came back for ESL Cologne and one other event. I forget what it was. Maybe a Pro League. And I hated Cologne. I hated Cologne the first like 3 or 4 times I'd gone there. Cologne's kind of a weird city. I don't know if you get this vibe either. But it's a weird city in that it feels like it should be a big city, but it's still a very small city with like no skyline.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's any like crazy like restaurants and like steakhouses.
No, there's no real reason to go there outside of esports, really.
So like I really, compared to like the other cities I'd been going to for esports, I really hated it until like late 2016. I took like a 5-week contract, I guess it would be. Like I did Pro League, or 4 weeks maybe it was. I did Pro League the second season of 2016. I was actually hosting the desk. This was like season 4. I hosted a season of Pro League. Alex wasn't there. I don't remember what was happening. I hosted it. And I was in Cologne for like, maybe it was like 6 weeks even, which is like the longest I'd been away at any one time in one location. And that was the time I really fell in love with Cologne. Because what I did was I rented a bike, or I bought a bike, I bought a bike to use to go from like my Airbnb to the studio and back every night. Cologne's got a huge biking culture.
Yes.
But what happened at that time is one of my favorite artists had just released an album. I listened to a lot of a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, called Sufjan Stevens. Does like folk music. He's very, very relaxing to me. I enjoy it very much. He's got a very versatile style, some very unique music. And he'd released this album called Carrie and Lowell at the time. So when I got to Cologne, that's the album I was just like spamming. And I was listening to it as I rode the bike from the studio, like from the apartment into the studio at like, 11 a.m. and then back to my apartment or back to meet the guys at a bar at 1 a.m, nighttime riding through Cologne. So whenever I hear this album come on, and there's a couple of songs that trigger it a little bit more, there are certain songs that like when they turn on, I get visions of like riding my bike in Cologne and seeing the lights and seeing like the water tower and seeing the like the antenna, like the phone antenna and everything. And I just get images of like riding along the streets and crossing the bridge over the Rhine and seeing the Dom. So when that album plays, like it like takes me back into that season of that one event that made me kind of learn how to appreciate Cologne.
Okay. Is there a particular song from that album that you would say like people need to listen to if they're listening to this?
4th of July is my favorite from that one. I had about 3 songs picked out because I figured that question would come up, and I don't remember them in the moment at this time.
No, go with the instinct.
4th of July is my favorite song from that album, and it has that same kind of connotation. I really, really love it. But the whole album is beautiful, and actually, a lot of his earlier catalog is a lot less experimental, which I enjoy more. But Carrie and Lowell, I think for me, is like one of his great albums. I have it on vinyl back at home, and I still throw it on from time to time.
Cool.
Let's see, I just pulled it up. Drawn to the Blood, I really like. John My Beloved is good. Death with Dignity is very good. But I enjoy the whole album. But it's still like, to this day, I have those like Cologne vibes pop in when I listen to it.
Are you somebody, because I find myself doing this a lot, are you somebody that associates a song with a period of time in your life or a particular place you were, obviously this is very associated with that, but with that other
outside
music,
of that,
do you kind of...
Not so much.
Okay.
There's a couple profound ones here and there, but mostly it's like, not really. I don't know why before
this was so profoundly associated.
I think it's because I really enjoyed Cologne once I got into like the bike culture. Which
okay, so
I don't ride bikes at home. I don't own a bike. I don't bike around town. I don't do it as a form of exercise. But like, you know, when I got there, I was like, I just want to dive into this culture because it's like part of being in the city is seeing all the people riding their bikes around. And like, that's part of being in Cologne in my mind at that time. And I just went for it. And it was cool. It was like, again, it's like that thing of just like diving into other people's enjoyment of certain things. And I just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do it.
No, people do this for a reason.
Yeah.
Let's see
it was
why.
like a €150 bike and I used it for 6 weeks. And
that's really smart.
yeah, and it was cool.
Yeah.
It was, and the public transit there was sick anyways. So like you don't even need a bike if you don't want it.
Yes.
But I was just like,
yeah,
screw
if you're
it, I'm
tired,
in.
jump on the
And I did that every once in a while when the broadcast ended late. I was like, I'll just drag this onto the tram. But yeah, I don't know why that one is like so location heavy or like moment heavy or like has that attachment to it. I think at the time it was really just like the only album. I spammed that album. Like it was just there.
How did you discover them as an artist? Like, where do you remember how you were exposed to it?
I think I have one friend of mine who's always played music and has been in bands who I think introduced me to him. But he had a really cool. Sufjan had a really cool like angle to some of his music early on where kind of as a joke at one point he referenced he wanted to make an album for every state in the United States. And he kind of threw it out there as like a throwaway joke and it was taken very seriously. So it's something he's had to endure, I assume, throughout his career. But he made an album called Greetings from Michigan. He's from Holland, Michigan, which is like 45 minutes away from me.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of got me started. And then he made an album called Come On, Feel the Illinois, which is a reference in an album based off Illinois, where Chicago is. So I went to school in Chicago and grew up in Michigan. So both those albums are great. He's got a couple other really good ones as well. But yeah, I think that's what attracted me to it. And I enjoy folk music. I don't enjoy today's music. I'm a very like boomer in my musical tastes, as people in the talent team know when I get control of the speaker.
I think I'm becoming a bit of a boomer with like all the rap music and stuff going around.
Yeah,
like,
some of it's a bit too much.
Never been into rap and like grime. Like I can appreciate, again, if there's somebody. So Boylan, the sound guy.
Yeah.
I've worked with him since I started doing esports, and he has like the Hannah Montana alternative life of he is actually a really successful fucking grime artist. So he goes and does festivals everywhere. He went to Croatia before this.
That's weird.
so whack, but like is amazing. And I can appreciate listening to his music because like I know how much he fucking loves it. But again, if it was like, somebody else, I don't have that connection.
Someone just plays you grime music, you're like, screw this. But you're like, this guy goes to all of it.
Yeah. Like I can see the passion in him, you know? Like I can see how much he loves it, so I appreciate it through that. But I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, music's taking a bit of a turn.
It's taking a weird turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Sufjan's always been great. If he's probably going to not be in the wheelhouse of a lot of people who listen to this, but I love him. It's cool too, because that album specifically, like, especially because of its connection to Cologne, it has like a very, nostalgia, melancholy, although melancholy is generally considered like a negative emotion. I don't view it negatively, but it's like a very calm fondness of looking back when I listen to it now. But he's great. I love his stuff.
Have you ever seen him live?
No, I've wanted to, but I haven't had the chance yet.
Is it just not lined up because of
there's been a couple shows that I probably could have gone to if I really wanted to force it, but just haven't happened. Other than that, haven't done it just yet. Most of the music I listen to as well is like, I don't have like that. It doesn't have a connection with a specific moment, but a specific time. Like I have a lot of bands that when I listen to them, I think of like college.
Okay.
But I'm not like a specific moment of college.
Like what kind of bands I'm interested?
Band of Horses.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of them?
No.
Okay. Band of Horses is college. Radiohead is high school.
I love Radiohead so much.
Yeah.
I can't describe it. But like, I don't know. You know when people ask you to put on music?
Yeah.
I wouldn't put on Radiohead because it's a vibe that like most people
also,
are going to be like, what the fuck's going on?
People who like enjoyed Radiohead back in the day, like nowadays, there's like it feels, I don't know if you get this. I get a sense when I tell people I like Radiohead or I listen to Radiohead, there's like a very pretentious expectation if you listen to Radiohead that you're going to be like pretentious about your music.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I just fucking love Radiohead.
I just think they were doing something cool at the time. It was different. It's lasted. But I'll only listen to it on my own.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a solo experiment nowadays.
Yes.
Well, it's not social music. They have a couple isolated songs that are like social music, but not like the albums.
I think Just is my favorite song of theirs.
Just is
which
crazy.
is like, I can put that on anywhere and people are like,
what's one of their newer albums? A Moon-Shaped Pool?
Yes.
I hated when I initially listened to it. When they came out with it, I was like, nah. But like now when I listen back to it, when I got a little bit older, I gave it a second chance. Yeah. I'm like, actually, this might be one of their better ones.
Yes.
Like there's a weird angle to it. And actually, I've loved like, what's his name? Shit. Is it Greenwood? Alan Greenwood?
Yeah.
You know, he does soundtracks now for movies and TV shows.
Really?
And him and I think even Tom York contributed on it, did the music for Blue Planet Season 2.
No way.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense, though.
Yeah.
Actually, with the vibes and the kind of instrumental.
They created the music for like orcas hunting, you know, whales and fish and seals and.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch that, rewatch
awesome.
it. And
and I even like some of Tom York's like solo stuff gets a little bit crazy, but you enjoy it for what it is. I think you eventually learn to like enjoy music for. I always try now, like, and maybe this is why it comes off as pretentious, but I always try and like listen to it from like the artist's point of view, right? Like I try and like understand like what the artist might have been thinking or like his perspective. Like when I listen to a new album now, and again, this is like being older, I try and find interviews from that time span of when it was like released. And like see what he was like, what mindset or what his life was like at that moment. Cause like artists are very open about like the emotions that go into the art, right? Like they want people to appreciate that side of things. And to a certain extent, that's part of the art. So like, I don't know, every once in a while I try and dive into that side of things.
Are you a big like lyrical man in terms of you listen to the lyrics and actually think about them? Or is it more they exist, they sound good? You're happy with that?
If I get the sense that the lyrics are important in that way, I will. Like, I feel like there's some songs where the lyrics are just kind of there to do it, and they drive home, and they're fun, and you enjoy them. And I feel like sometimes the lyrics are supposed to be a little bit more profound.
Yes.
And sometimes you only find that by, like, looking up the lyrics so that, like, you can track along in the song. And, yeah, there are certain... That's not my priority with music.
Okay.
It's more like how it makes me feel.
Yes.
But there are certain songs when I start to really enjoy them, I say, is there a deeper understanding or a deeper enjoyment I could have of his perspective that he wanted you to get?
Yeah, I like that obsession.
But I don't do that immediately. I'm one of those guys who has to like, I have to like spam certain songs to really get the lyrics to it. Like I don't immediately listen for the words.
Yes. Yeah, I think I have to have a certain level of like, I'm fascinated by this song and like, there's obviously all the instruments going off. Do you play any instruments?
No.
I don't either.
But I have like, when I was in school, do you guys do like the training where they give you a bunch of instruments, you like play them for like a couple minutes and they tell you, did you have like a music class in school?
We did, but it involved one keyboard between 30 kids.
Sure.
And it was just a DJ button.
Yeah. So we had a day that was like, okay, go play the drums for 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Go play the violin for 5 minutes. Go play trumpet for 5 minutes. And like, you'll have like an instructor with you and they'll rate you on how natural you were with it. And they'll try and direct you to play that instrument for music class. And one instrument that they pushed me towards that I didn't take was the viola. I always wish I could play like violin or viola. I wish I'd taken that route. When I was in school, they directed me towards the baritone. And I played the baritone for 3 years. And then I upgraded to the trumpet, or not the trumpet, the what's the big one? The tuba.
Tuba, yes.
As a tuba player. And I played in like it was called the All-Star Band for like Western Michigan, but played in like an orchestra, I guess it would
like
be.
An all-American, came out with the flags and shit.
Yeah.
Why can I
the tuba
visualize that so
of all things.
That's so random.
Yeah.
And then you just...
stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, tuba's not really an instrument you can carry on. Those brass instruments.
Where is that going to take you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, you can't really, there's nothing you can really do with it. It's not like the driving focus of a piece of music, right? It's in the background. That's why I always wish I could play like the violin or the viola. Like I wish I could play something that had a little bit more variety to it. And there's probably some tuba and baritone players out there who are cursing me right now, but like, I feel like they're very much more versatile and you could have learned a few more things that would have built a more appreciative. But I've always had friends that have been in bands. I have a bunch of friends who are in bands and make music and still experiment. And
Cool.
and I get my music fulfillment through them.
Yeah. No, that's nice. And my parents were, or my dad and mum were very big into music, very naturally musical.
Yeah.
And I never got that gene.
Never had that gift. I didn't either.
Yeah, I mean, my dad still works in music. Like, he makes, like synthesizers, like big, I was explaining those big fucking keyboards. He makes them. So he buys the hardware, turns them into software. So the house is covered.
That's sweet.
Which is really cool.
That must be a fun house to be in, yeah.
So wacky. And then my mom was like an interior designer / like gardener / artist. Like, everything was going on in our house, which was, I loved. But it did make me think, like, I don't know, when your parents do something, I'm like, it's not that cool because my parents are doing it. And it's only been the past couple of years.
When you're younger, like, you're just like, this is fucking dorky, or this isn't the cool thing. And then you realize as you get older, they're all fucking cool things.
So cool.
They're all fucking awesome.
And they never pushed me. I remember my dad being like, you need to learn to play the piano. Like, you need to do that. And I just wasn't bothered. So he was like, you have to, like, choose one instrument. When you go to, like, secondary school, we will get you lessons in one instrument. What do you want to learn? And I was like, I want to learn the drums. He was like, fuck's sake. Like, he was a drummer, but obviously having a set of drums in a house
is annoying as hell.
Isn't easy. Yeah, and it's fucking loud. So I had lessons at school and it just wasn't great.
Drums were the cool instrument at our school. Like, everyone wanted to do drums. My school was big into, well, in America, we love football. So my high school football team is huge in the area. And the drum line plays outside the high school every single Friday, every game day. They do like an hour. They show up before everyone gets in for school, and they're just playing as students walk in, so you know it's a game day. And then they come out on like the field between like quarters, and they're banging the drums. And that was the cool instrument to play. So everyone wanted to be part of the drums and the drum team and the drum line. And
American high school sounds so fucking cool. Like, everything I hear about it, it's just like, you guys had sports and you'd all come and watch the sports, and you had like music and you had like drama, and everybody gave a shit, whereas in UK you were just bullied for liking anything. If you were passionate about anything, like, you're a dork, you're a nerd, which sucked.
That was somehow like my high school, because even when I was in high school, like, everyone knew I was in gaming. I had like articles in the school paper. All my teachers called me Moses. All my classmates called me Moses.
Really?
It was very like well known that like my brother and I were like competitive video gamers or Counter-Strike players.
Wow.
And we weren't. I mean, you get the occasional like stupid comment, but not like bullied so much. Like, it was a little bit of hazing here and there, but yeah, it was well known, and I don't know. It was just like one of those things. Like, no one gave a shit.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's how it should be. And I think so many people get put off. Like, I remember like playing games with my dad and then going to school and being like, well, that's a boy thing to do.
Right.
Like, there's no, apart from like one of my best friends called Bridget, so we play like Spec Ops or Black Ops 1 together, because we didn't have like Xbox Live or anything, so it was just like co-op, split screen when that was a thing. But she was the only girl that I could say things to and talk about video games without people saying like, oh, you're just doing it to like get boys' attention or like to seem like you're cool in front of the guys. It's like, no, I actually kind of like this shit.
That was the stereotype back then, right?
Yes.
Like that had to be a very girl that
and
was
then like
playing
a guy picks like I made friends with a couple guys in like my science class, and they were like, you should actually play with us. And like, I'm really bad, but nobody really cared at that point because it was a social thing.
Nobody really knew what good was at the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wasn't even social in high school. I was like, I was the guy with like the headphones on between class listening to Slipknot. Slipknot, Disturbed, Tool, who's another like favorite band of mine. I listen to a lot of Tool still to this day. But yeah, I was listening to like the fucking heavy metal, dark. That actually, I got judged more for like listening to Slipknot than I did for playing a shit ton of video games.
Especially at that period in time, right? That was a bit of a
And I had a very preppy high school. It was very like Midwest yuppie.
Yuppie, I haven't had that word in a long time, man.
But you know what it means. It's
Oh, yeah, okay. So this is one that I ask everybody. One item which reminds you of someone important to you. Which is tricky because there's obviously a lot of different periods of your life, and I imagine some people don't have specific, tangible things.
Well, I'm going to try and do this because the first thing that comes to mind is wife and daughter.
Yes.
So I'm just going to move them to the side for this one.
Okay.
We'll go, because I think about them frequently and often, and
yes.
But this would be more fun if we find something a little bit different.
Just for context, Chad did a photo of Rushley, which he actually takes everywhere with him in the back of his phone case. And he said when he told his girlfriend, she wasn't best pleased, but then understood when she explained it. Yeah.
I have at home, I have a buddy of mine, a good friend from home, because I think one of the things that I think is sometimes tough in this industry is so much of your social life can get easily tied up in like gaming, and then your social life are gamers, and then your work life are gamers. I'm someone who very much subscribes to the idea of like having a balance of getting away from gaming from time to time, and not everyone does that. I have some very close friends of mine that I've had for 20 plus years, from way back to like middle school and early high school. I have one picture of us in my office that sits next to the PC, and that'd probably be an item I'd put here. I have a buddy of mine who's one of the three people in this picture, who had when I was in college, he was studying abroad in Africa and had like an emergency freak heart attack out in the middle of the bush, and had to get like rushed like 7 hours to a hospital in like the heat of the bush, there for like 5 days to a week, airlifted to London, and then eventually airlifted back home to the States. Turns out he had like a genetic heart defect and needed a heart transplant. So this all went down when I was like 21, 20. One of my closest friends that I still see this day, you might have met him. He's the one who comes to visit us in Copenhagen when Blast goes on.
Yes.
Yeah, so he had like a good like year and a half where he was like just emergency situation, craziness.
Yes.
He lived in the hospital in Chicago when I was going to school there for about a year. Just sat in a hospital room. Had to have a heart transplant. Had the forget what it's called now, but he had like the heart pump installed.
Oh, like where they put the valves in.
That pumps it for you. He lived with that for about like 8 months before he got his transplant. But yeah, a picture of him and one of our other buddies, one of our other close friends from back in the day. But he's always been someone that I've like very, when you have someone who goes through that close to you, you learn to like, you understand like how things are like, you have to appreciate things very much. So that's always just some picture that I've always just loved, because it was us in college and us just hanging out before all of that happened. And yeah, it's just one of those things that it's a constant reminder of like the friends you have outside of work and outside of the game, but also every time you see him, it's something special. Yeah.
So you met him in college?
No, I met him in the third grade.
Oh, wow.
Third or fourth grade. Yeah, and he's also actually one of the friends that I mentioned who still plays music. He was my friend who's in the band, makes his own music. I've actually hired him to make a few pieces of music for different content that I've done over the years.
Wow.
And just, like tried to find like ways to have him involved in stuff. I was bugging him for like 3 years before I got my first tattoo of my family crest. I wanted him, he's also an artist. He can draw extremely well.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted him to draw me a tattoo. And he never wanted the responsibility.
Well, now you've had the first one.
Yeah. I waited like 5 years to try and get him to draw this tattoo, and he wouldn't do it. So then I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm doing it without you.
That's so funny. I'm thinking about getting a tattoo. I've never felt the urge, but I think I get it now. I think I get when there's something important enough to you that you're like, I want this on my body for the rest of my life. Like, I totally get it. How painful was that on a
I would say
scale of...
The pain should be the last thing you think about when it comes to a tattoo. Because the pain's not bad.
Okay.
It doesn't... I didn't... Well, I mean, I don't know what your tolerance for pain is, but I didn't think it hurt at all.
I don't think I know.
It's like a base
like if you're getting
annoyance.
An injection, I imagine it's kind of like that. Like
not even
prick.
as bad, because it happens so frequently and so fast that like you feel numb. You feel it in the area. You don't feel like the individual pokes.
Interesting. Okay. It's like a localized kind of like... Once
it's just like, there's something happening here. Yeah.
Once you feel it, it's already gone and it's going back. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Henry about it because I was kind of like, do you have any artists you recommend? Like, I'm thinking of this kind of style, which is a bit different from what he's got. And he showed me a couple of Instagram pages and it's kind of I mean,
that was the most
tattoos is
intimidating part for me
incredible.
too, is picking an artist. People are like, just find like some artist you think does good work or does like draws good tattoos and clean lines. And I'm like, I don't know what any of that fucking means. I don't know how to judge a tattoo. I don't know, like, is this line clean? I don't know. I have no fucking idea about any of it. I would say the biggest thing that I would tell you when you get a first tattoo would be, don't feel bad about being really picky about the design.
It's on you forever.
Yeah,
like,
and I think like, I know for me, like, I felt like a certain thing of like not wanting to critique his work. I don't regret anything, or I don't think it's bad. There are some things I might do differently, but I don't think about it in that way.
Yeah.
But like, don't be afraid to be very much like, change it to the way that you want it. You know, like, don't think about the pain, think about the design, think about executing it the way you wanted. And I think the scariest thing about it is it's an area where you have to relinquish some control.
Yes.
So the first tattoo I got wasn't so much this. The second tattoo, the artist was very much, this was the guy Launders recommended me in Toronto.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was very much like, listen, in this part of your body, it's going to sit on you this way, which is why I drew it this way, because the wing is going to wrap around in this aspect. And it's going to be a lot at this angle. This is how people are going to see it. This is why it's designed in this. So he's very comforting in the way he designed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting, because I guess I'm looking at it now, obviously, just for context, this isn't video, it's the eagle on Jason's arm. And for me, I'm obviously seeing it the way it's intended, but for you, you don't see it like that, obviously, unless you go like that.
But also, like, he designed this with the fact that I'm on camera and that I hold microphones.
Yes.
So he wanted it to like look flat when I'm holding a microphone on camera. And also when you're just casually like standing, like your arm is actually turned back more than you would expect. So people looking at you from behind see it at a different angle. So like you have to like bequeath a certain amount of responsibility to the artist.
Yes.
Which is why like be comfortable. Don't be afraid to critique the design, because any tattoo artist who like is worth his salt, so to speak, is going to understand like, and they'll ask those questions.
Yeah, self-respecting. They want their own art to look good. And so you've got obviously Counter-Strike on your finger.
On my trigger finger,
that's
mouse
it.
finger.
You've just got this on.
Those three, yeah.
Okay.
I still have like 1 to 2 more I want to get, and then I think I'm done.
What did you ask? Did you have a specific idea for your friend to do, or was it like?
Well, I have my family crest was my first tattoo. I have the O'Toole family crest has like a lion in it. Huh. So this is my family crest, and this is what I wanted. I wanted it to be, when my friend did it, I said, I want you to take this line that's in this, and I want you to just rework it in your own inspiration to keep the feeling that it's like a family crest, to keep like the artwork of like an old world crest, medieval artwork, but have your unique spin on it in some way. Yeah. And he didn't want to risk, like, he didn't want to be the one to be like, oh, I regret this tattoo forever, and you fucking drew it.
Yeah, because I guess if you've never had a tattoo before, you don't know how somebody's going to react to that. Whereas I guess if the more you have, I would presume the more you're kind of accepting / open. Well,
and you know, like, I think like there's like I guess like one thing I've learned doing them is like your first tattoo or first tattoo for sure, your first couple, you always want them to be special. You always want them to mean something. And at this point, now that I've had 3 tattoos, I don't give a fuck if my next ones mean anything, right? Like, I just want something cool. I want something that I like. Yeah. Like, the meaning, I guess, is a little bit more casual, a little bit more to you. Yeah. So I really want a hand tattoo.
Which means... Oh, like on the hand?
No, on my hand. No, on my hand. Yeah, yeah. Like here or here. Like actually on the back of my hand.
Wait, are you saying a hand on your hand?
Not of a hand, just on the hand.
I was like, I guess,
yeah, that'd be sweet, a hand on a hand.
Yeah.
No.
I get it.
That'd be ridiculous.
Like, any idea of what you want? Just anything.
Couple ideas that I'm working around in my brain that like, and the reason why I haven't pulled the trigger is obviously because I haven't really worked through exactly what I want. Yeah. I really like the idea of the, do you know what like you surely know what the Celtic tree of life is? Yeah. I don't want that, but I want something that is close to that. I want something more nature. One of the ideas I had was like, I wanted to have like mountains drawn behind the eagle. Because like I do a lot of hiking, I do a lot of camping. Yeah. That's been like a big part of my life, and I enjoy that. And I try to do it every year, and it hasn't always worked with like the esports schedule. But I want something that's more geared towards nature. And I think the idea of having like a tree that is along that goes into my hand that has some kind of
like the roots with the veins kind of thing.
Yeah, and like that's like a certain philosophy that I've also enjoyed in life as well, is like the idea like everything comes full circle. Everything is like in a cycle. Everything is secular. Everything is comes around. So the Celtic tree of life is very much in that vein.
Yeah.
But I haven't found I haven't come up with an idea in my head that visually I think I appreciate enough to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm at too, is where like some of these things, now that I've had these tattoos, I wouldn't have done this previously, where when I went to an artist, I said, this is the idea, this is what I want, work with me on it. Going to it, I'm probably going to go back to the same guy that Launders recommended, because I really liked him. This is what I'm working with, and this is where I'm at, but like feel free to get creative with it,
Yeah.
Because like this is very much like patchwork tattoo, where you see people who have the complete built sleeves, where you can tell everything was created with the full picture in mind.
Yeah.
That's more what I'm thinking for my second tattoo.
And Launders tattoos
or fourth tattoo.
Fucking awesome. Like, his he used, again in the podcast I did with him, he used actually two tattoos as his kind of things you put in the box.
Yeah, Loptem, I think is his name.
Yes.
Loptem on Instagram.
Yeah. Shout out. I don't know. I'd never really thought about it until recently, and I was like, actually, like I know this thing is important enough to me.
A lot more goes into it than I think, that's why it's like such an emphasis of like make sure you want it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think there's elements to it that you don't think about before you get a tattoo. So like I think I love my tattoos. I would have done things maybe a little bit differently if I'd had the experience of tattoos before tattoos.
Okay.
Like I would have thought of the big picture in mind before doing things a little bit more.
I guess you didn't.
At the moment it was like, I fucking want my family crest.
Yes.
I want it here.
That's all I want.
And then I was like, okay, Bald Eagle. Like it's been a nickname through Counter-Strike. That's the one that signifies like the esports time frame. Counter-Strike tattoo on the finger was an easy one.
That's fucking cool.
But like I would have maybe thought of a way that they could interact with each other a little bit differently.
Yeah. No, I guess you didn't know until you did the first one whether you would fuck with having more. And then I remember speaking to you after you had it 2 seasons ago in Malta, and you being like, hey, the addiction's actually fucking started. Like,
no, it's a real thing, and it still sticks to this day. Because like when I did this, I was like, I want to do like my right forearm essentially and hand is going to be my tattoos.
Okay, and the other one is?
And now, the other one's always going to be blank. Because I was like, I have my ring here, I wear a watch, this arm has nothing.
Yes.
Tattoos are going to balance it out a little bit.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, maybe I want my hand tattoo on my left hand instead of the right hand.
Ooh.
So I don't actually know anymore.
Why did that enter?
I don't know. Which is,
like
until I know I won't get a tattoo.
True, true.
That's the way it is.
Be certain on these things. So going back to the picture of your friend from college, so you didn't meet him in college, he went to college with you, or he visited you?
No. I went to school in Chicago. He stayed in Grand Rapids, which is very close, like a 2.5-hour drive. He went to school.
I love how that's close for America, by the way. Like, fuck me. That's how you get to Scotland.
Very close. No, you can do that in a day. You can go there in a day and back. And then he went to school in Colorado, and obviously he did his abroad studies. He's always been into nature. He did it in was it Kenya? I'm just going to say Africa.
Okay.
I'm just going to say the continent of Africa.
Is in Africa.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah?
But I don't know if it was actually Kenya. I think it was Kenya. I'm pretty sure. But like he did the shit where like he would go into the wilderness and like his class would count a herd of wildebeest.
Okay, Kenya would make sense for that because there's a lot of
and track wildlife, and it was like wildlife biology, and that's what he's always been into. He lives in Sweden now. He did a lot of studying with like DNA and CRISPR. He's one of those guys who never stops learning.
Okay,
he's a freak. He like I told you like my brother's like a black belt in Taekwondo, junior Olympic champion, did wrestling. He's like a physical freak. My buddy, he knows like he speaks like 5 languages, speaks Swahili, speaks Swedish, English.
Wow.
Can probably do conversationally like German and French, and like he just picks them up. Like he inhales languages.
That's mental.
Inhales philosophy. He's very much into philosophy.
Okay.
What was the question?
Did he visit you in
college
then? He did.
Yeah, I visited a couple times in college, and I visited him a few times in college. Did some road trips out there and had some good times. And now it's just he visits me. I would hit him up. I'm going to do the spring showdown after Pro League.
And he's still in Sweden?
Or the fall showdown. Yeah, he's still in Sweden.
That's with
his wife. And yeah, he's just going to hop over. We'll hang out for a week, do some cool shit.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so $1 million question that everyone in esports wants to know the answer to. How do you balance esports life, personal life? How do you do it? And still feel like you're not slipping out of the esports space, or you're not slipping away from all your friends and your family and everything that exists outside, because, you know, that is the reality that you have to have it.
I haven't figured it out, to be honest with you. Like, like even now, like when I'm home, I'm paying attention to Counter-Strike and paying attention to esports and following it. But it's very much like a second priority when I'm home, especially now. This year has very much been like a transitional year for me. And I feel like I haven't found that balance well. Just because I don't really know, like, cause it's, especially with the new baby, it's very hard to find that balance. Cause like, you know, it's like a responsibility you have to fulfill and you have to do. And then Counter-Strike is so demanding and the industry is so demanding, that maybe I am doing it. I haven't found a way where I'm comfortable with it.
No,
like every time I come back to an event, the first 2 days are such bullshit. Like, I feel lost.
Yeah?
I feel lost.
In what way?
I'm not used to like speaking about Counter-Strike. I'm not used to like conversing in like the way you exist in like gaming and Counter-Strike is very different from the way you exist as like a father and in real life and in interactions such as in that world.
Very true.
So it's like I almost have to like get used to like speaking the language again, you know?
I haven't noticed that, if it makes you feel any better. I haven't
a little bit,
like you've seemed like, oh, here's the normie coming in.
This year's felt very like out of comfort for me, which I guess is expected when you have a baby.
Yeah, first baby is probably life-changing.
But very uncomfortable in the sense that like, yeah, that feeling of when I come back, I'm playing catch up for like a day or two, you know? Like,
and I think that can happen. Like, I skipped 2 events this year. And
that's a lifetime in esports.
It fucking is. It really is. And, you know, I was watching, obviously, but then real life can get in the way sometimes. Like, obviously, this year has been much more so than others, and I'm having to focus way more attention on family, and I want to. And it's that draw of like, okay, you know, something crazy has to happen in your life for you to appreciate, like, fuck, I missed all these things, and I'm never going to get that back. So I need to learn how to have a balance. And it's fucking hard. It's really fucking hard.
I think my solution in the road that I'm going on is where I need to find more things I can do from home, more work I can do from home. Like, I obviously can't be traveling 250 to 300 days of the year that I get used to with a baby, with a daughter. I'm aiming to get it down to like 100. I think I was aiming for about like 100 to 120 this year, and I think I'm going to be like around 150. Okay. Which is still a little rough.
That's still a third of the year.
It's a hefty amount.
Really long time,
But I think 100 is a pretty admirable place to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where like there's the reality of the job. Like, if I'm doing this job, which I love, which I don't want to give up, which my wife doesn't want me to give up, which we enjoy. It gives a lot of benefits to us too.
And that's really lovely that she appreciates.
Yeah, she used to, I mean, I'm lucky. She used to be a gamer. She used to be a competitor, and she was a world champion. She played with Potter back in the day. She's won a couple of like women's world championships in Counter-Strike, so she gets it. And she's been very, very forgiving and very easygoing and very accommodating to it. Which is fortunate. But yeah, I do need to figure out how to do that more. And some of it is learn how to create content at home. Find like content that I can create from home that I enjoy doing. Finding ways behind the scenes to maybe do more work behind a product instead of always on camera.
Yes.
It's just such a hard industry to make all of that work. You know, like, especially as someone who, outside of my on-air broadcast work, I'm not currently doing a lot of content. So like, your relevance to an industry is being on those broadcasts and building out and fleshing out that other side of things is time consuming.
No, it's like, imagine
it's difficult. It's an investment.
Maniac, right? They stream, and that is their kind of other side of this industry.
And I hate streaming.
Yeah,
I could never be a
not
streamer. I don't mind streaming, but I'll never be a big streamer. I could boot up the stream and just play. But like, when I play video games, it's for fun. It's for relaxing.
Yes.
And if that turns into a daily thing, I could maybe do it like 1 day a week. I feel I could do like a 1 day, 3 hour stream.
When obviously when we do blast stuff, when we have the 2 best of 3 days, Jacob and Matthew will come in 3 hours early. They'll start on the regular 3 best of 3 day, and they will fucking stream together. And if they get 3 losses, like, obviously they don't let it affect the broadcast work, but like, I'm getting my makeup done, and meanwhile,
it affects the green room work during the broadcast.
And I'm hearing them when I'm having my makeup done, like, fuck,
it's going to be this kind of a day.
Shit.
I'm going to have to be ultra positive now.
No, it's so true.
But like that's just like not in my personality to be a streamer and to be that kind of stuff. And even social media is a bit difficult for me at the moment. But
yeah, no, I find social media fucking hard because I want to keep my private life pretty fucking private. Not that there's much going on that anybody would give a shit about. Like I understand that from my perspective, most fans are looking at me as a vessel to get closer to the players. Like I am one step closer to the people they actually care about. They don't care. If I stop doing Counter-Strike, nobody would care about what I'm doing. And I find that comforting because it makes it seem a bit less intimidating. But it means that when I'm off, like, nobody really cares about what I'm posting because I'm not doing, I'm not
gaming related, Counter-Strike related.
I'm doing pre-production work on the products that are coming up, but I can't talk about that. And I don't want to because there's stuff that you do that never comes to fruition and I'll bank that and save it for another day.
It's like the pressure of the industry is like a weird one too, because like you feel like you should be doing those things because it's what other people do in our positions. But I'm getting to a point where I'm like coming to understand like I don't care about being that big personality within the scene. Like my enjoyment is, again, you said vessel. I've always used the words like I want to be like the lens with which people look at Counter-Strike because I've been playing it for so long and like letting everyone into the way I experience Counter-Strike I think is interesting to me.
100%.
And I'll be honest, like I don't care about esports as a whole. I don't care about Valorant. I don't care about League of Legends. Yep. I care about the health of the industry. But
yes, for our benefit.
I care about Counter-Strike. And if it weren't for Counter-Strike, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't even be considering this line of work, like.
So many people ask me, like, would you do other games? And I'm like, I mean, I don't play them. So no. And I don't think as a host you necessarily have to play the games, but it fucking helps when you own your ear and we got a 30-minute delay. Okay, great. I understand what's going on here to a certain degree. I'm not good at it, but I understand the intricacies.
I've done a few other games and it's weird. It's fine for a one-off. I casted a couple Valorant events during COVID.
Oh, yes, yeah.
From being online. I casted with Lauren and a couple, like 2 or 3 of them.
That was the first Blast event I did, actually, which was a kind of, I had a call with a couple of the Blast people afterwards, and they were like, hey, this was a semi-trial to see if we want you on Premiere, and we do. And this is so fucked. I'd just been to the dentist to get, like, 3 fillings, and my mouth was so numb everywhere. And it was a video call, and I was like, I'm so sorry.
I was like just on the desk, but...
I was trying to smile when they said it, and then I remember Frederick just being like, you're right. Are you having a stroke? It's like, no, I really want to do this.
I'm just numbed up from the dentist.
How was the Valorant experience for you? I mean, obviously, you're not pursuing it.
It was fine. It was so early on in Valorant that there was nothing established.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, there wasn't.
And it's close enough to Counter-Strike. I mean, the game is based off Counter-Strike, essentially, at the end of the day.
Yeah. They got to MR12 before we circled back around.
Apparently.
So.
Don't even get me started on that. I was competing in MR12 back in the day.
So we had Blade on the desk today, and he was like, yeah, I remember competing in it. And I'm like, yes, this is what we need for people to say, like, it's fucking good. I think it's going to be good.
But it's close enough to Counter-Strike where, like, I could have some fun with it without, like, and I knew I wasn't committing to it. I knew I wasn't going into it. I knew I was never going to leave for it. So I never felt any pressure to like learn the abilities or learn the agents. I was just having fun with it.
Yeah.
So it was fine.
And good to do with Lauren as well. She's lovely.
Yeah, I love Lauren. Yeah. I miss Lauren a lot.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I did a Call of Duty Blackout event.
Ooh.
At TwitchCon. Me, Machine, and I think it was Golden Boy.
Oh wow! Okay,
and it was like the streamer event. They had like Shroud. I think Courage was there. A couple other the big streamers back then. Ninja had a team, and yeah, we just casted like 2 days at TwitchCon. And then I didn't ever go into it, but I went out to LA at one point. I think it was right before season 2. And had meetings with Overwatch. I met with like a bunch of people from Blizzard. They wanted me to come be part of the Overwatch League.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
To do like what Monty did and go over.
Yeah, and the Semmler was there at the time and everything.
Semmler. Yeah.
And again, it was similar to Valorant. Like I was never really going to consider. I was like, it was one of those things that you entertain to see what it's about.
No, I want to hear what you're going to.
But you never like really are considered or visualized making the change.
Yes.
But like things like that is like, I'm always, again, of the mind where it's like, go out and have that experience of talking to one of the biggest gaming companies about joining the product. Go see what those interviews are like. Go get the experience of sitting down for lunch with the head of production, the head of product, and like see what that conversation is and see their perspective. Like, even though I was never truly considering it, see what they have to offer and see what it might be and get the experience of it. Yeah.
100%. I used to do that when, before the merger happened, when I was working at Faceit, joined them full time in 2019. And obviously there was just 2 seasons of VCS a year. So the other time, and I would do the other games, like I did PUBG, I did Halo was like I love Halo so much. And we got to do a Halo event, which was amazing. And it was proper old school LAN, no audience.
Halo would be a fun game to do.
It was really cool. I felt really lucky. And yeah, I mean, that was great. But in the off time was obviously a lot of pre-production stuff. And one of the big tasks I did was just watching through every esports broadcast that's going on right now, screenshotting shit that they were doing, which was so important because I think sometimes, and I guess I'm falling back into it now because we're doing so much CS that in my off time, I have to take time off because of the hours you're working and stuff. But it's really important to see what other broadcasts are doing, even if they have more budget than you, even if they have, different kind of style than you. Just seeing what's working. There's
some good ideas in there, always. Yeah.
And we used to be very guilty of doing map videos right at the end back in the day. But then it was like, actually, why don't we do videos right at the front? Because then we can actually talk about them and go, hey, we've got Mirage coming up. Here's some actual tangible information that we're going to see happening. And that was from, for the Faceit side of things, we were talking about it a lot. And then you'd see other broadcasters doing it and actually see it playing out. Going, hey, why don't we do this? Yeah, which is easier when
everything in the early days of the broadcast were stuck in like cookie cutter, and everyone just did the same thing because they were like, "Oh, this works, let's do it." And there weren't enough resources in terms of money and in terms of manpower to actually get creative with it. Not enough creative people who know the game well enough to be creative with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're using vMix, so everything goes in, and you do it in that order. And now we have EBS, which is like the godsend because if I throw to something, and even if I fucked up, or actually there's a segue that makes it easier to throw to something else. It arrives. Like, holy shit. You know
what game I would do?
Yeah?
If I had the chance? I fucking love Super Smash Brothers.
Really?
I fucking love it.
I never figured a Super Smash Bros. Kind of guy.
I played so much Smash Brothers growing up. And even in college, even more so than Counter-Strike and Dota, I ended up playing way more Super Smash Brothers because I had one other buddy who loved it as much as I did, and like 2 other guys who were along for the ride who had a good time with it. But I played so much Smash Brothers in college.
No way.
And to this day, I don't watch them live, but I'll go back and watch VODs. Like I'll go back and watch like finals, and
that's so
I fucking love Smash Bros. Because like the fighting game scene has that resistance to becoming like corporate and bringing in sponsors the way that we have.
Yes.
They have like a resistance, like a vitriol, resistance to it.
It's the violence.
So when you watch it, it's still very old school esports. And I always thought that was stupid for years and years. I was like, what are you guys fucking doing? Like, this is dumb. And I've learned to appreciate that kind of resistance to it.
Yeah.
Not that I think we've gone like a bad route or anything like that, or that it's a negative thing overall. It's a different style. And I think part of us pitching Pro League and having Pro League be this way is an attempt to return to that more basic gaming feel. But as a game and as commentators and as an entertainment product, I think Smash Brothers is fucking awesome.
Who did you name, like as a character? Who would you pick? Because it depends what iteration of Smash.
Yeah. I was gonna say it. And in the Nintendo 64 Smash, I was Fox. In GameCube, I was Fox. In Wii, I was Meta Knight and Wolf. And in the new one, I don't know. I fuck around with everyone because I don't play it enough anymore to like be good with anyone. But like there was a time when I really tried to get good at like the wave dashing that they do and like the fucking down airs and like the neutrals and all that jazz. I tried to like really start to learn how to use characters and tried to like learn it as an esports player just because I fucking love it. I think it would be such a fun game to go do like a celebrity cast of a Smash Bros. Game. That would be awful.
Could we get it on Pro League?
See, I think this would be a fun segment to do at Pro League, would be like grab highlight clips from other games and have the Counter-Strike commentators cast them.
Ooh.
I even think it'd be fun if we went out and got like, the fucking like Animal Planet clips of like a cheetah chasing a gazelle and cast that. It would be so much fun. I don't even know if it's legal. I don't know if we're allowed to do it, but like, how cool would it be to just like grab random things you've never seen before? I'd be like, all right, Harry, Hugo.
Have at it. Yeah.
This is a 30-second long clip, and it could be animals. It could be Smash Brothers. Cast. Go.
It's like
and either
a fucked up subreddit, but like animals or Smash Bros. Like that's what's coming.
But like either you're gonna make it awesome and it's gonna be awesome, or you're gonna fuck up and fail and it's still gonna be awesome for the rest of us to laugh at you. Like there's no losing. I feel
you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Week 4 of Pro League. If you're not watching it, go back in the VODs because it will happen. Jackson will love that. Big up Jackson.
That'd be great.
How obviously I can cut this if you're not comfortable talking about it, but obviously you were involved in Pro League a little bit before in terms of pre-production.
Sure.
Is that what you mean by, being able to work remotely, being able to pre-produce certain types of stuff? How have you found that experience? Yeah,
and actually, like some of it, sometimes it's not even like the content side of things. I loved making content and being part of it, but I think I think I'm one of those people whose like skill sets in various things over the years. Like even when I was playing, I was never the star player. I was very, very good, but I was like more like a glue guy kind of player. Like I was a supportive element who filled kind of some of the gaps. And I think in commentary, I've always been good at pairing up with anyone. I can cast with anyone. I can work on desks with anyone. And I feel like there's like a role in terms of Pro League of behind the scenes where it's a very similar thing where it's like I can be someone who helps connect a lot of the dots because from working on some of these productions, like on the back end, a lot of the things that cause problems and hiccups and prevent the product from getting to where it can be its best level is miscommunications and missed opportunities to synergize between departments and missed people not realizing that they can connect with people in these ways, that these guys are thinking of the same thing and combining your kind of fucking powers can make it something cool. And I think that's somewhere I want to find ways to fill those gaps. And I think on the back end, that's something I could be uniquely suited to.
Yes. I think there's always a unique aspect as well of having an experience on camera versus seeing how it's built up in the lead up to, it going live. Yeah. Right, and looking at that was something that I did massively at Face It before. Again, we were a team of like fucking 13 people in London. It was so tiny, but doing desk design and stage design, and getting up a little fucking Google Doc and getting the shapes up and going like, hey, this is what bugs me as a desk host. I hate it when I'm in the middle. I hate it because I have to look between people and the conversation is never fluid. And I hate it when I don't have a talkback box because as much as, having a button on a microphone is cool, it's not reliable. Whereas a box, you have a tangible bit of feedback. And there's certain aspects which, pre-merger, when we were much smaller, were very handy to have that kind of insight on. I think I totally get what you're saying about, content, sponsor segments, just general segments. We have so much creative freedom at Pro League, which is, I think, why everybody that works on it loves it. Like, it's incredibly full on. But the amount of impact and input we get. Yeah,
when Chad and I pitched this kind of idea, I don't know if we would have, we would have still, but we didn't realize at the time how much more work it would create for us. In the sense that we have so much responsibility in terms of what's on it. It's an
amazing kind of work.
And it's especially a good kind of work when you have the crew that we have wanted to have here.
Like this crew is. Yeah. Such a blessing.
Everyone's up for everything. Yes. Anyone is going to go out there and make themselves look stupid at a moment's notice.
So proactive in terms of even behind the scenes crew, right? Everybody's coming to us, and even the audio guys, like that's a perfect example. The audio people will come to the room and go, hey, who's on set? Who needs what type of mic? Like obviously for people at home, you'll notice there's some DPAs, we call them Madonnas, which are kind of fixed onto your head.
I hate those.
I fucking hate them. Yep. Yeah, my head's too small, so it moves too much.
Yeah,
and
me too.
It sucks. And then you have the handhelds, but like, the fact that we get to dictate what kind of microphones we have is like kind of mind blowing, and that's only a small, tiny bit. Yeah.
Well, I remember it's so funny because it's weird thinking back on how long we've been doing this for. I remember when we did E-League Season 1, the first broadcast we did on TV. I don't think I've ever seen a group of Counter-Strike talent members that fucking nervous. That was such a unique day to be on American television, know you were going on American television on one of the biggest channels on American, like going on the BBC or live Counter-Strike.
Yeah. And that's crazy, thinking about the talent that were on that as well. I wouldn't presume any of you guys would feel nerves. Yeah.
But that was a weird day because you could tell in the room, we all got lunch together. We all hung out like on the balcony of a hotel room that day. We all got, sat on like the patio waiting for the shuttle, and no one talked all day. Not a single word was uttered.
Wow.
Like it was just so quiet compared to what we normally are. And that was it's a similar vibe sometimes. The reason I bring that up is because like that energy of going on live TV is unique. It's very, it's so much different. Even actually live streaming doesn't bring the same feel to it. But when you're responsible for it on this live stream, like there are a little bit more, not nerves in terms of like, I'm nervous to go on camera, but nerves in terms of, I'm nervous of how this is going to work.
Is it going to hit?
Yeah.
I think I've definitely
Is this way? Because like we made this whole pitch based off, we kind of have a better feel of what like the Counter-Strike and gaming audience likes and wants. And that's, and then you kind of sat there and you're like, I've pitched this idea. I've pitched this content idea to like, oh yeah, we all said yes. Everyone's bought into it.
Yep.
Is it going to fucking land? Is it going to fall flat? Is it going to be funny? Are we going to get laughs? Are we going to get like, this is fucking stupid?
On the topic of esports and traveling and seeing the world, which is, again, another perk that we get from this job. Been to some places that I never thought I would ever go to.
So many.
One destination you travel to, you would put in this box, in this capsule. What are you putting in that?
Belgrade.
Belgrade, okay.
Because again, I got to see it through someone. I went with Yanko. It was during a Pro League season, and we had like an extra like 3 or 4 days somewhere, and I went for 3 days. I met up with Yanko there. Nico came down from Bosnia. Went out to a couple bars, couple clubs, couple dinners.
Cool.
But I fell in love, man. It's another one of those things where you get a kind of like, I wouldn't have enjoyed Belgrade so much if I didn't get to do it with Yanko. Like one, because language barrier would have been there. I don't know anything about the city. It would have been hard to like get around and find the awesome things. But like Yanko, like, man, he knows I like history. So he took me on a day of walking through all of Belgrade's history. Like went up to the fort that had been like bombed and like destroyed like 5 separate times throughout like Serbian history. Took me to like an old school, like a church that they had on top of a hill that was beautiful and picturesque.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just that. It was like this is actually, it's kind of so like in the States, we're taught like a very selective history of certain, let's say, wars, engagements that we've been a part of.
Okay.
One of them being like the NATO and American like bombing of Serbia in the 90s. And I didn't even realize it when I booked the tickets. I landed on like the 20-year anniversary of when the American Air Force and NATO bombed Serbia. Which was very strange.
Yeah.
It was very uncomfortable, as it probably should be, getting off the plane and like seeing the faces. Like they have like all the tributes and like these are the X amount of people who died during this bombing. And I was just, should I just get back on the plane and fuck off? I was like, should I get out of here? I was like, is this gonna be a problem? He's like, nah, come on, let's like come through. I'm waiting in the parking lot. So I came through. So that was a little bit, but like, man, the Serbian people were so incredible. And like, it was a fucking awesome experience of getting to, one thing I appreciate as an American, because I don't feel like Americans have like an enjoyable culture the same way like old world countries do. Like the traditions are more modern and they're not there. And I've always appreciated like really older traditions. And just environments. And man, when I was in Belgrade, I like to drink, I like to go out, and I like to party, I like to be at bars, I like that environment, and so does Yanko. We would go to a bar, and it was so much more social. No TVs, tables are interacting with each other.
Oh, hell yeah.
We bought like, we went to like a bar and bought like 20 shots of tequila for all of the people that we were with. And the guy was just like, a bottle's like $25 and it's cheaper than just buying those shots. And we were like, okay, cool, we bought the bottle.
What
and we
a
pulled in the
guy.
table next to us and had shots with them. He took me to a Serbian club that was on a boat docked in the river. And they just played Serbian folk music the whole time. And I was up on like the chair and the table dancing to like Serbian folk music that I don't even know what to sing. I don't know what the story is. I don't know what the words are. I don't know what the music is. I'm just a drunk fucking American dancing on the tables. And it was awesome. It was so much fun. And the food was incredible. And he took me, he was like, you know, Serbia does really good like meats, obviously. Got a bottle of rakia, cevape.
You had cevape?
Yeah,
oh my
so
lord.
good.
The best shit ever.
And like, I'm dying to go back. I would love to go back to Belgrade. So like, Belgrade is always like for that weekend and for like that like feeling of being like actually brought into the culture. I've always loved. And actually, it's extended. Like, I even just love Eastern Europe more than Western Europe to a degree.
I think the Balkans are. It's beautiful there.
It's wonderful.
So beautiful.
And I told Yanko next time we come back, I want to go into like the mountains. I want to go into like the nature, and I want to get into like out of the cities. Let's kind of trip
together. Because I was speaking to him a couple weeks ago, saying like, I've been to Croatia. I fucking love Croatia so much. There's so much like of Yugoslavian architecture that exists there, and it's all abandoned. So you can do so much urban exploring, and it's kind of like, I don't know. I think it's the way it should be. Of like, you go at your own risk. If you die here, you know, what did you fucking think was going to happen? Like, it's there for you to explore. Yeah. Exactly. And
you underestimated
I love
shit.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Be responsible for your own actions, and it's amazing. But I've done like Dubrovnik, Split. Did Zadar Zagreb this summer and all the nature around there, and he was saying come to Serbia, and Yanko's girlfriend is like big into hiking, exploring and stuff. So
and his boys go out to like a mountain cabin in Serbia for like a week every year. They like go do like they do pig roasts out there. They'll just roast a whole pig.
That's fucking awesome.
And like,
that's your little esports excursion.
And all of it's great, man. Like Yanko brings me like his family, like his uncle or grandfather like bruises on rakia.
Oh, wow.
So like he's brought me like bottles of rakia that I have at home that I like.
That shit's strong. I didn't.
Yeah,
I
kick your ass.
And I was like, oh my god, it's like paint stripper.
My friends at home won't do it anymore. Well, they have that saying, right? It's like the what is it? It's like the first one is like thorns. The second one you can drink with a beer, and the third one is like water or something like that. The translation. So I like when we always reference Serbian sayings, it's because Yanko's got so many fucked up Serbian sayings.
Oh my god, the
like,
donkey in the mud's my favorite.
Yeah, fuck the donkey when it's stuck in the mud.
You said that at a wedding. Apparently.
Seize the moment. At a wedding, go for the bride.
Go for the bride.
Reach
That's
for the stars.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like, yep.
And it's kind of
I love these people.
It's all true.
Yeah. And I'm there for that. Like I want that in your face style. I love the Serbian culture from the little I've experienced of it. So Belgrade has always been like, and Serbia has always been like a very cool place, considering how welcoming it was at that moment, because it very easily could have been a shit trip, all things considered.
Yes.
You know,
I didn't even think about it in that context.
And I could have understood why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did you have speaking of food, did you have Ivar?
What's
Whilst
that?
you were there? It's like pepper puree that you would dip cevape in.
Probably. Okay. Yeah, probably.
But it's only if you're in certain areas. So I was in Croatia this summer, and we were near the Bosnian border, and I was kind of like, fuck it, I've never been to Bosnia before, so let's just drive over. Obviously, Croatia's now in the EU, Bosnia, in Schengen, so it's not. So you have to do the whole border check. I rented a van and like slept in a van for like 5 days.
I'd love to go to Bosnia. Looks beautiful,
and it was really cool. Like the area we went to was very like mountainous and stuff. So we went over the border. And obviously it had Croatian cevape, which is very much, they give you avar with it. Like it's very, there's a lot more like, I guess, vegetable-based stuff that comes with it.
Sure.
And you cross over to Bosnia, and they put it in, I guess it's like a pitta. It's almost like a pitta.
Okay, yeah,
Put
I know
the
what you mean.
in, which was amazing. But me being an idiot was like, oh, do you have any, like, cevape that can go with this? And he just looked at me like, no.
Dumb.
Like, why the fuck would you do that? And then I said it to Yanko, and he was like, yeah, no. Like, don't ask for that. Don't ask for that.
I've made cevape at home.
How did that go?
Really good, I like to think. I've never gave it to a Serbian.
But it tasted good for you.
But it tasted great for me. We don't have all the same spices and all that stuff out there, which is hard to get, so you kind of make do with what you can. But yeah, it's awesome.
It's such a... Yeah.
It's such a unique world. And
it
like,
really is.
And after knowing Yanko for so long, you start to see like some of the way, like the reason that he is and like the culture that he grew up in. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I've loved so much about the job is seeing different cultures and seeing different places that you've never seen, and you can't put a value on that kind of stuff.
100%.
You know, one of the most beautiful cities, I mean, Belgrade blows it out of the water in terms of an overall experience that I had because I had Yanko, who's from Belgrade, but Budapest is maybe the most beautiful city I've been in terms of
I've never been.
walking around and the architecture. But I know just like the old world buildings and like buildings that you see that were hundreds of years old along the river. And you just get, I love places that make me feel like I'm not in America. Like when I go to London, I could be in New York. When I go to Paris, I could be in Chicago.
Yeah.
Like outside of the Eiffel Tower. And, you know, but like, you know, like when you're in certain like westernized European cities, like you could be in any of 10 big cities in the world.
No, fair.
And I like feeling like I'm in somewhere new and out of my comfort zone.
Yes.
I like feeling like I'm in somebody else's culture. Also, I love the Middle East. Like I love the culture and the food of the Middle East. I think it's amazing. And every time I've gone there, it's always been like I very much feel like the weight of being like in an old world, like an old world city, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that feeling.
Culture's so different. Okay, 2 questions I have from this. Do you know how many continents you've been to? Obviously North America, South America for Rio,
5?
Europe, Australia, and have you been to
Australia? I haven't been to Africa.
Okay, we were on the same.
I was supposed to go to Africa for an event with Lauren. I was supposed to go to an event in Johannesburg. And my passport didn't have enough pages open.
No.
They do that stupid thing where it's like, you know how you have all those visa pages and there's like 6 pages that are just empty of nothingness? I didn't realize it at the time, but I had like, I don't know. Some countries are good at stamping, some aren't. If my stamps were consolidated, I would have been fine. But I had 1 full page open and a half page and like 6 empty non-visa pages. And I didn't realize it. And when I got to board the plane, they like, nope, you don't have enough pages.
Oh shit! So
I was at the airport. I was boarding.
No.
Business class.
Honestly,
feeling great, excited. And I was like, but I have like all these pages are open. I was like, what are these for? And they're like, yeah, we don't know. And I'm like, well, that's fucked up.
I mean, they're empty.
Yeah.
So
It's like ostensibly for a visa page.
Fuck the US for how they stamp. No offense, but they do it right in the middle of the page. If you go to Copenhagen, you get 6 on that page. I can get 3 trips in and out for 1 that LAX does.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that shit so much.
And if you go to Ukraine, they do like a random sheet at the back.
Do they?
Yeah.
I've never been to Ukraine.
You haven't? Kiev, sadly, is like another city that like I really learned to love. Like it had its own beauty to it, not in the same way as like a Budapest, but like the food and like the nightlife.
I've heard incredible things about it.
I was so amazed when I realized that like Ukraine or Kiev had an incredible food scene. Like the restaurants there are baller. Georgian food everywhere. And it's amazing. It's fucking amazing.
No, I would love to visit one day, obviously.
Yeah.
Do you keep a track of how many countries you've gone to?
No,
I did it on a
keep track
plane
of any
once,
of
but
that.
was really bored.
The only time I've done it is when I have to go to Australia. Because they make you list all the countries you've been to in the past year.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it is year.
I was intrigued as just to the number. Bosnia was my number 30, so I imagine you've been to a few
I've probably
more.
been to around 30, but I couldn't...
I would imagine you've probably been to like 40, like just
maybe
the random shit
it's
you've
very
been to.
possible.
No, it's kind of... I'd like to... This is like...
I have one of those maps at home, right?
Oh,
that you like scratch off when you've been to them? Yeah, I have one of those, but I don't know the number.
I'd like to get one with like a corkboard and do like things in. This is a very fucking middle class thing to say, but I would like, for my age, to be at least in tandem with the amount of countries I visited. Like I would like to...
Okay.
So I'm 27 now.
Well, you're winning the game right now.
Yeah,
you're winning the game.
I'd like to keep doing that.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that like, this is one of the reasons why like I value my job as well right now is because like I want to be able to expose, because you start thinking about this, is I want to be able to expose my daughter to different cultures and to Europe. Or we brought her to Paris when she was 3-4 months old.
Wow. And you said she was good on the plane, like, I mean, as good as...
I wasn't on the
3
plane,
months.
to be fair.
Okay, Jane relayed. But
Jane told me she was good on the plane. But yeah, like I think it would be cool to. I mean, I'm gonna try and get Jane can teach her some Korean, and Jane's mom can teach her some Korean.
Yeah.
I'd like her to be bilingual. But I think the exposure to different cultures and different countries and different ways of doing things, I think is probably one of the most important things you can give another human.
100%.
As an American who has at times been ignorant in my own viewpoints of things, and is also very exposed to how ignorant most Americans are of things.
Yeah.
I think that exposure to other countries and how other countries do things and other ways to live is super important,
Yes.
especially early on, especially growing up. That idea of instilling different viewpoints and being accepting and understanding of different viewpoints early on.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to do it than take someone to a different country.
And it would take you so much time to reverse that. If somebody isn't open-minded and tolerant, it's such more effort to go backwards
For sure.
than just exposing people from birth. Okay, so we're putting Belgrade. Hopefully they'll visit next year.
Belgrade's in the hole. Yeah.
So we've got one more thing to put in, which is the TV series. Obviously, when you're traveling a lot, I imagine you're watching a lot of TV. Maybe at home as well.
The West Wing.
Oh, I fucking love The West Wing.
I know.
Okay, yes.
So you know how everyone has a show that they can just like watch on repeat in the background or they do other shit? Mine is The West Wing. Whenever I'm shaving my head, it's like The West Wing. Going to sleep at events, West Wing. Cooking dinner, throw on The West Wing. Like other shows I'll put on, but I probably watch The West Wing start to finish through its entirety 20 plus times. Have it on in some stage of rewatch.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of those where I think you can, I've watched it in its entirety, but I think you could rewatch, again, you're saying like, whilst you're doing other activities, it exists, and it's there to remind you of like, this is fucking baller.
And like the nice thing too is like, it's not, it's a political show.
Yes.
So there's no like action. Like there's like maybe like I can count on one hand like the number of episodes that have the action to the degree that would like surprise you. Like I've gone to sleep watching Game of Thrones, and I've gone to sleep watching The Wire, and at some point there's some fucking scream as someone loses their head, or some scream or some like version of gunshots going on that wake you up. Like West Wing is like chill. Yeah. Like it is a political show. It's like a thinking show, so you can fall asleep to it easily. It can be in the background. And I really like Aaron Sorkin. Pretty much most of the works that he's done, I enjoy. And again, like if you go back to like, remember when we were talking about like, do you find meaning in like the lyrics of show? What I always find interesting about the Aaron Sorkin work that he does is like, he is like a classically trained, musical, writer. And like when he writes the scripts for episodes, he's very hardcore about saying you have to say it this way. And it's because the flow of sentences and the syllables of the words that he's using create a flow and a tempo in the conversation, which is why it's so enjoyable to listen to them in the background, is because there is a beat that the actors are hitting as they say their lines.
And you don't have to be watching to see that beat, you're literally
and there's still like some kind of subconscious enjoyment of the flow of the conversation. And it's not conversation that ever exists in the real world. Like you'll never see two people in the real world talking the way they do in a Sorkonian.
Like, the walk and talk scenes
those two are like fun,
nobody fucking nails that.
They're way too snappy. They're way too back and forth. Everyone's prepared.
But it's natural in its essence, which, is kind of like the harmony you have to hit is not making it seem too structured, but there is a beat to it.
And you're still riding the wave of the dialogue that he's written. But I mean, just in general, I think I very much enjoy politics, which is always a sticky subject. But I find like there's a certain like black hole element to politics where if you go too deep in a certain direction, you're going to get sucked into the black hole of like being on one side or the other. Yeah. I very much enjoy politics just because, I mean, it's obviously an important topic to cover, but like, I certainly I enjoy to a certain extent the fact that it is so dirty, and like when you start to realize how dirty it is, there's a game to it that like when you realize it's being played, you just kind of like you can appreciate it from the outside, while also hating it from the outside, while also enjoying that it's being played. If that makes sense, I don't know.
No, I get that. I think the only way it's kind of morbid is like, oh shit, this is actually impacting your life. I think I didn't appreciate that until Brexit happened. I have never won a vote in the UK. Since the age I was allowed to vote, nothing I've ever voted for has actually come into effect, which sucks ass. But you observe it and you're kind of like, oh, I see why, going a bit deeper, but like David Cameron said, oh, if you re-elect me as a Conservative, I will host a referendum. He didn't want that. He didn't actually think it was going to happen. It was just pressure from another side. It comes in. he fucks off.
Yeah.
Like, he's out. And it's like, it is like a drama in its own right, but it shouldn't be because it's people's real lives.
I know.
And it's that balance of like,
I know.
How do you deal with that?
But there is that twisted thing where it's like, because you don't have control over it, it's like watching a car crash.
Yes. Yeah.
I think my
have
generation
one vote
that
out of millions.
Are you a millennial?
I think I'm on the cusp. I'm
The
96.
cusp?
I think it's 81 to 96 is millennials.
Because I think millennials, like my generation, I feel like was the first one to really realize that like politics was so fucked that we actually have no impact anymore.
But still vote.
Yeah, but we still vote, and it's still important,
That's
and you're
important.
still supposed to do it to have an impact, but you realize, I think we were the first ones who started to like notice that like there was no real change that we could actually affect because it was so gamed at that point that it was done. The game was lost.
Especially in America.
We were yeah, I can't speak to any other country, but like
I think the UK is following suit.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But like there is like that element of being like, I'm just watching a car crash.
Yeah.
I'm watching NASCAR because I want to see the cars crash.
And I'm not
That's
gonna
what's
look
coming.
away as much as I have.
And it is dark, but like that's why like, and I mean I think naturally too as I've gotten older, I've found more interest in political media. I read more books about politics, whether it's historical or modern.
Oh, nice.
I read more books about geopolitics. I listen to more podcasts about day-to-day politics. Because it is such an important subject to be well versed on.
Yes.
Because, yeah, on the grand scheme of things, you might not be able to have an impact, but at some point, like, having the knowledge to have an impact might be something you need to
100%.
Influence.
Yes, yeah, having a well-versed and well-balanced opinion.
My vote will not change the president, but it might change the governor. It might change something local. Hey, it's Trace.
Yo!
On the opposite
You
balcony.
want to be on the potty?
Are you on it right now?
Yeah.
Can you bring this over or what?
Yeah, there's no camera.
Yeah, no camera.
It's free, it's room now.
You can come over. Feel free. That was a Trace of Space reporting in with...
Trace from Space calling in from the kitty corner balcony.
Yes, he's going to bring us more alcohol.
And this is why we have this fucking crew at this event, because it's just like, hey, bro, you want to come do this shit? Yeah.
I have like a player manager this side, another player manager this side, all the talent over here, players over here.
You know what I realized is I don't know who I have around me. I'm not on this side of the hotel.
Oh.
But you can see through these curtains.
You really can.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until I saw
I've had to be
somebody else's.
Yeah, I've had to be very cognizant.
I'm not, yeah. I think we can leave that there,
Yeah,
actually.
Everyone got what they need to know out of that.
Exactly.
Oh, we probably need to let Trace in, don't we?
Amazing. Okay, so we're locking the time capsule. Key is in. Locked. We're throwing the dirt on top of it. Yeah?
Yeah.
We're in.
Burying it deep.
It epitomizes your life.
We'll come back into this.
As deep as it can fucking go.
One day, 10 years from now, I'm going to open this hole. I'm going to dig it up, open the box. It's going to be Belgrade, Sufjan Stevens, a United 5 jersey. And I'm going to say, God, I was fucking drunk.